Chapter 43-28. How did you know? The man in green blurted out and quickly covered his mouth. He looked at Lin Yi from head to toe and said, "Who are you? Tell me your name if you have the guts. Otherwise, I won't be polite to you." If it was any other time, the man in green would have already killed someone based on his violent nature. However, he didn't dare to act rashly. After all, the pier was under martial law and he didn't dare to cause too much of a commotion. After all, this was a stolen ship. Once it was exposed, it would be troublesome. Secondly, he hadn't figured out Lin Yi's actual strength yet. He couldn't see through Lin Yi's strength. Looking at this person's posture, he didn't come with good intentions. Moreover, his aura was condensed. If he was an expert in the Golden Core realm, or even the original infant stage, then he would suffer today. People of high status really have short memories. If you can't remember yourself, then forget it. I don't have the habit of telling the dead my name. Lin Yi didn't mind and smiled faintly. What? The man in green suddenly became angry. He looked at Lin Yi's appearance carefully and felt that he looked familiar. After a while, he suddenly shivered and pointed at Lin Yi and shouted, "You are the escort. Your memory is not bad. That's good. Since you remember yourself, at least you won't die with grievances. It's a good thing for you." Lin Yi was still leaning at the door and smiled indifferently. Die with grievances? Ha 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 ha. After the man in green saw Lin Yi's background clearly, he was no longer as nervous as before. He laughed fearlessly and said, "You are just an ant in the early Golden Core realm, but your tone is not small at all. Before, the four of you didn't even dare to fart in front of me. Now that you are the only one left, you actually dare to run in front of me and act tough. Are you tired of living? Is this very funny?" The corner of Lin Yi's mouth curled up into a mocking smile. "Of course it's funny. I've been out here for so many years, but I've never seen an idiot like you. I spared your dog life before, but now you actually dare to run back to the ship. It's rare to see someone so eager to die." The green-robed man's face was filled with disdain as he said, "I say, brat, the Equal Heaven Escort Agency only gives you some spirit jades. The compensation is pitifully small. Do you really have to risk your life for them? Or do you think it's very heroic of you to snatch back the darts that we stole? You're thinking too much. There's a ready-made boat right here, and I'm just hitching a ride. I'm doing what I've been asked to do. Who told you guys to be so unlucky to run into me again?" Lin Yi said faintly, his expression unchanged. Who are you calling unlucky? A jit on early stage trash dares to boast shamelessly in front of me. Fine, I have nothing to do anyway. Today, I'll teach you how the word death should be written." Finished speaking, the green-clothed man suddenly erupted and pounced straight at Lin Yi. "Oh. You're a stolen boat. Aren't you afraid of causing a commotion and being exposed?" The corners of Lin Yi's mouth curled into a smile. He still crossed his arms and did not make a move. So this is what you're relying on. Do you think I'm afraid of people finding out? That I don't dare to attack you?" The green-clothed man did not stop moving as he laughed. Ha ha ha, you're really an incurable idiot. Where do you think this is, brat? This is the chaotic Xinduan Sea. Murder and arson can be seen everywhere. No one will care. Even if you tell them I'm a pirate, do you think anyone will help you? You're so stupid. So you're saying that even if someone dies now, no one will care? Lin Yi said calmly as he looked at the green-clothed man who was instantly above him. Of course. Even if I dismember your corpse in front of everyone, no one will care. Ha 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 ha. The green-clothed man laughed ferociously as he suddenly slashed down. His scimitar was much shorter than an ordinary scimitar. Usually, it was hidden behind his back. It was difficult for outsiders to see it. Once he attacked, he would often be caught off guard. However, Lin Yi was not surprised at all. He just tilted his head and turned his toes slightly. He avoided the extremely sudden first strike. The blade of the scimitar brushed past his cheek. It was extremely thrilling. Thank you for your reminder. It seems that I don't have to worry about attacking you. Lin Yi smiled lightly. Humph, you have some strength. The green-clothed man was shocked and his determined strike was easily avoided. Moreover, the aura that Lin Yi displayed just now was not at the early stage of the gold core realm. It was at the middle stage of the gold core realm. There was a gap of 2 whole levels between their strengths. Before he finished speaking, Lin Yi took advantage of the flaw in the opponent's strike and struck him with his palm. The 28th style of Frenzy 8 trigrams palm. Idiot is really an idiot. I just showed you a flaw. You fell for it. So what if you are at the middle stage of the gold core realm? You are just an ant waiting for me to slaughter. The green-clothed man's scimitar suddenly split into 2 and met with Lin Yi's Frenzy 8 trigrams palm. His scimitar was a combination of 2 scimitars. This was another unexpected move. If the opponent was not careful, he would suffer a big loss. Moreover, the gap between their strengths was obvious. In the eyes of the green-clothed man, there was no suspense at all in this kind of head-on confrontation. There was only one final result. That was, Lin Yi's palm and body would be cut off by him. However, the next moment, the green-clothed man's ferocious smile instantly froze. Before his scimitars could hit Lin Yi, his whole body had been covered by the fiery genuine chi of the 28th style of Frenzy 8 trigrams palm. Bang! The green-clothed man's chest suddenly had a big hole. He flew out and smashed on the deck not far away. Then his eyes lost their spirit. He lay on the ground powerlessly and became a complete corpse. He never thought that he, a master at the peak of the late stage of the gold core realm, was not the opponent of a mere middle stage of the gold core realm in a head-on confrontation. He really died with regrets. From start to finish, there was only one exchange of moves, and it was a clean and efficient killing blow. The people outside didn't even notice the commotion. Of course, even if someone noticed it, they wouldn't come over to meddle in other people's business, just as the azure-clothed man had said. In the Zhenduanxi region, the price of meddling in other people's business was often the lives of others. Even the person would pay the price, so no one would do such a stupid thing. Lin Yi glanced at the green-clothed man's unrecognizable corpse. He did not have the slightest intention of covering it up. He just let it lie on the ground. He calmly found a corner in the cabin to hide from the wind and sat down. After all, he was an assassin. The corpse would not bring any discomfort to Lin Yi. He had been accustomed to it before he started his career. Chapter 43-29. Of course, the body of the man in black was left here. When the others came back, they would definitely be alerted. However, Lin Yi did not intend to let these pirates go. Even if the 3 of them at the peak of the late gold core realm attacked together, they would not pose a threat to Lin Yi now. If these people were sensible, Lin Yi could consider sparing their lives. If they were not sensible, then he could only reluctantly send them to follow in the footsteps of the man in black. Anyway, they were not good people. Killing these evil pirates was a good thing for the people. Lin Yi sat in the cabin with his eyes closed. He waited for a whole day until noon the next day. Suddenly, there was a commotion outside. It was not the return of the pirates, but the movement outside the dock. Damn it, after so long, the ban is finally lifted and we can go to sea. During this period of time, we have been cheated badly. At least we have lost a lot of 10,000 spiritual jades. Not far away, someone was glad and complained at the same time. Forget it. That passenger ship of yours is small and run down. It can only carry a few people at a time. If there's a storm, it might capsize at any time. You've even lost tens of thousands of spirit jades. It's better if you become a pirate and go rob. The bystanders chuckled disapprovingly. Hey, I don't want to talk nonsense with you. I am going to sea now. In a few days, I will bring back some good things to let you open your eyes. Then you will know how much I have earned. This person did not talk nonsense. He immediately called the crew and was ready to go to sea. There was a similar noise around them. They were all ready to set sail immediately and quickly earn back all the spiritual jades they had lost during this period of time. It seemed that the ban was really lifted. Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat, but his feet didn't move. He continued to sit in the cabin, as if he was a god. In this way, he believed that the pirates should be back soon. Sure enough, less than an hour later, the man in black, who was the leader of the pirates, walked in from the entrance of the dock with a livid face. His face was ashen as he walked in from the entrance of the pier. Behind him were two other people with disdainful expressions. The third and the fourth. Useless things. At a time like this, he still went to a brothel to play with women and even quarreled with others. Could it be that he couldn't stand it for 2 days? Damn it, if I hadn't seen you two drunk like mud, you would have been chopped up and fed to the dogs. The black-clothed man cursed angrily. But boss, didn't you go there yourself? Otherwise, how could he have found us? OL3 and OL4 looked at each other and replied weakly. The two of them were drenched in cold water and looked like two drowned chickens. Even so, it was still difficult to conceal the strong smell of alcohol. Damn it, you still dare to talk back. The black-clothed man's face turned red, and then he flew into a rage out of humiliation and said, if I didn't look for you two bastards, where would I go at this time? Do you think I can't distinguish what's important and what's not? I went to get you two back because the ban on the docks has been lifted. Now is the time to get down to business, understand? Don't give me any more trouble. The news of the docks being lifted, didn't boss also hear it from someone in the brothel? OL3 and OL4 looked at each other and didn't dare to speak again. They just lowered their heads and didn't say a word. The three of them walked all the way over. They jumped onto the ship and landed on the deck outside. Then they heard the black-clothed man shout, "Second brother, come out to work. Finally, the ban has been lifted. We have to set off quickly. Otherwise, shopkeeper Wei will be waiting anxiously. Maybe that old guy will go back on his words." After saying that, the black-clothed man went straight to the steering room, while OL3 and OL4 were responsible for lowering the sail. From beginning to end, no one came to the cabin to take a look. They didn't even know that their second brother was already a corpse. With such a poor vigilance, how could they have the nerve to be pirates? Lin Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. However, since the other party didn't take the initiative to come in, he was too lazy to go out. So he continued to wait in the cabin. After a while, the cargo ship set sail. Lin Yi estimated that they had already left the dock. Then, he heard the black-clothed man's voice again, "What's going on? Did second brother drink too much and laze around inside? A bunch of drunkards. OL3 and OL4, you two go and call him out. Later, when we see shopkeeper Wei, we have to figure out how to extort more profit from this old man. We have to think about this matter carefully." "All right." OL3 and OL4 responded and walked toward the cabin. However, as soon as they opened the cabin door and saw the scene in front of them, both of them were stunned at the same time. Cold sweat involuntarily began to flow down. The black-clothed man waited in the steering room. Seeing that there was no movement for a long time, he couldn't help but scold again, "Why haven't you come out yet? Why are you dilly-dallying? What can you do like this? Bo. Boss has an accident. Something big has happened." OL3 and OL4 suddenly staggered over and hid in the steering room as if they were running for their lives. They were gasping for breath. "You're the one who has an accident. Motherfucker, you still dare to curse me?" The black-clothed man scolded in confusion. "No. No. Second brother has been killed. He died a terrible death." OL3 and OL4 were flustered and stuttered as they explained. "What? How is that possible?" The black-clothed man was shocked and obviously didn't believe it. No matter what, second brother was an expert at the peak of the late stage of Gold Core realm. Moreover, he liked to hide his trump card. It was always him who plotted against others. In this Jinduan city, there were no irreconcilable enemies. How could he be killed so easily? No. I'm not lying to you. He's really dead. He's in the cabin. OL3 and OL4 waved their hands repeatedly. The situation was serious. This time, the black-clothed man couldn't care less about steering the ship. He quickly walked to the cabin, and the panic-stricken OL3 and OL4 blindly followed behind him. Stepping into the cabin, the black-clothed man couldn't help but gasp when he saw the miserable corpse on the ground. His hair stood on end. Who? The black-clothed man suddenly shouted. The aura of the peak of the late stage of Gold Core realm was released unreservedly. He stared at a corner of the cabin, where Lin Yi was. Hee, you finally see me. You pirates are really amateurs. Lin Yi curled his lips and stood up. He looked at the three and said with a faint smile. OL3 and OL4 quivered when they saw this. Even their previous drunkenness was completely scared away. They had only seen the corpse and hadn't seen Lin Yi. Trash. The black-clothed man scolded with a livid face. He didn't know whether he was scolding second brother, who was dead on the ground, or OL3 and OL4 behind him. In any case, in Lin Yi's opinion, these two words were quite accurate. If second brother wasn't trash, how could he be killed so easily? Chapter 43:30. As for OL3 and OL4, they had become like this just from drinking a little wine. They couldn't even notice a living person like himself in the cabin. They were truly trash. His mother opened the door for trash. They were trash to the extreme. Even though Lin Yi was sitting in a hidden corner, he didn't deliberately hide his aura. A normal expert at the peak of the late Golden Core stage could find him with a casual sweep of their divine sense. Just like the man in black, he found Lin Yi immediately after sensing something was wrong. In contrast, Old Third and Old Fourth were simply unworthy of the title of peak Golden Core stage expert. It was no wonder that they could only be the underlings, while the man in black could be the boss. Did you kill Old Second? The man in black was on guard as he stared at Lin Yi's every move. Old Third and Old Fourth behind him also looked nervous as if they were facing a formidable enemy. They couldn't see Lin Yi's true strength, but judging from the way Old Second died, he should have been killed by a single palm strike. Since the other party was someone who could kill a peak Golden Core stage expert with a single palm strike, the three of them were naturally very wary. After all, they were only at the peak of the late Golden Core stage. That's right. If the three of you don't know what's good for you, he'll be your example. Lin Yi smiled faintly as he got up and walked toward the three of them. The man in black, along with Old Third and Old Fourth, looked at each other and retreated until they were on the deck outside. They didn't dare to attack Lin Yi rashly. Who are you? Why did you kill my brother? The man in black had nowhere to retreat, so he finally braced himself and asked in a low voice. He subconsciously thought that this person might be an enemy that Old Second had made during this period of time in the Jinduan city. Killing without a single word was a common occurrence. Oh. You three really don't remember me? Lin Yi smiled faintly as he breathed in the fresh air on the deck. The man in black was stunned when he heard this. Could it be that this person wasn't an enemy of Old Second? I remember. You are the escort. Old Four suddenly pointed at Lin Yi and shouted. He had always had a good memory. Previously, when they were in the cabin, the light was dim, so he couldn't see clearly. But now that they were on the deck and the light was bright, he immediately remembered Lin Yi's face. Escort? The black-clothed man and the third brother reacted slowly. They were stunned for a moment before they reacted. Then, they carefully sized up Lin Yi. He was equally shocked. It really is you. Not bad. You have a better memory than your second brother. All right, if you don't want to die, then drive the boat obediently. Lin Yi's words showed that he did not put these three experts at the peak of the late Jindan stage in his eyes. Huh. The three of them looked at each other with strange expressions. Then, as if they had heard a big joke, they burst into laughter. The man in black pointed at Lin Yi and said with a grin, "Kid, are you fucking crazy? A piece of trash like you wants to play dirty with me? Ha 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 ha." The third brother and the fourth brother, who were originally at a loss, also laughed wildly. Previously, he had been too shocked to see his second brother's corpse. Secondly, he hadn't completely sobered up from his drunkenness. That was why he had acted so wretchedly. But now that he had figured out the other party's background, he no longer panicked. If they remembered correctly, the kid in front of them was just a piece of trash in the early Jindan stage. In front of these three experts at the peak of the late Jindan stage, he was no different from an ant. They could easily kill him. The corpse is clearly there, but you still want to have wishful thinking that you have everything under control. Could it be that you pirates are all so self-deceiving? Lin Yi mocked with a faint smile. Humph. Kid, I don't know what method you used to kill my second brother, but it must have been a sneak attack or drugged. You are too inexperienced to use my second brother's death to threaten me. To tell you the truth, these little tricks were all left over from when I first started out, ha 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 ha. The black-clothed man laughed disdainfully. Since that is the case, then I have nothing to say. Lin Yi's eyes turned cold, but before he attacked, he suddenly asked, "Let me ask you a question. Your second brother died so miserably. Don't you feel sad?" Sad? Ants will always be ants. You don't even understand the principle of the strong preying on the weak. His death only proves that he was not strong enough. What does it have to do with us? With his death, there is one less person to share the spoils with, and we can get more spiritual jades. We have to thank you for your good deed. The black-clothed man laughed contemptuously. Behind him, the third brother and the fourth brother did not have the slightest trace of sadness on their faces. Instead, their eyes lit up, as if they really felt that their second brother's tragic death was not a bad thing, but a pleasant surprise. I see. Then I understand. Lin Yi shook his head lightly. Even the brothers who lived with them day and night treated them like this. These people were hopeless. What do you know? Do you know how you are going to die? You dared to board our ship alone, which has already proved your stupidity. You are hopeless. The black-clothed man sneered and scolded the two people behind him. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and kill him. As he spoke, the black-clothed man quietly stepped back. His eyes flickered, and it was obvious that he was a little afraid of Lin Yi. He was not as arrogant and conceited as before. Indeed, if it was a sneak attack or drug, even a master at the peak of the late Gold Elixir realm could be killed by a master at the early Gold Elixir realm. But who was the second brother? He was an expert in underhanded means. How could he be so easily tricked by others? So it was very likely that this kid in front of them was not as simple as he looked. If they were not careful, they could easily capsize. To be safe, it was better to let the other two take action and see if this was a trap. The third brother and the fourth brother did not realize the trick at all. After being scolded by the black-clothed man, they immediately laughed and attacked Lin Yi. Killing a weakling at the early Gold Elixir realm was as easy as turning over their hands. This guy in the lead was quite cunning. The corners of Lin Yi's mouth lifted slightly. Then his figure flashed and disappeared without a trace. The third brother and the fourth brother were stunned. The two of them were not as stupid as they thought. This time, they went all out and wanted to take the initiative to strike first. They did not expect to suddenly lose track of Lin Yi's whereabouts. The two of them tensed up and quickly used their divine senses to search. However, when they found Lin Yi's position, their faces suddenly changed because at this moment, Lin Yi was standing behind them, less than a step away from the two of them. Take care, I won't see you off. Along with the calm voice, Lin Yi suddenly spread out his palms. Before the two of them had any reaction, the frenzy fire 8 trigram's palm had already hit their backs at the same time. Chapter 43:31. Bang bang. With two muffled sounds, the third brother and the fourth brother each spat out a mouthful of blood. Like kites with a broken string, they were directly sent flying dozens of feet away and fell into the sea. When the leader of the black-robed men saw this scene, he was stunned on the spot. He stood there in a daze for a long time, unable to speak. Even if they were slightly worse than him, Old Third and Old Fourth were still masters at the peak of the late Gold Core stage. Who would have thought that under his eyes, they would be killed so easily? Because the dock had just been lifted, and because it wasn't far from the dock at this time, there were many ships nearby. When they saw the two fall into the sea, they all came out to the deck to watch the show, but no one meddled. They just watched for a while and took a detour. After sending the third brother and the fourth brother flying, Lin Yi's gaze immediately fell on the leader of the black-clothed men. The black-clothed man suddenly quivered. His first reaction was not to resist, nor to run for his life, but to kneel down with a plop. Big brother, oh no, senior. You must be a nascent soul stage senior. I'm sorry, I was wrong. We had eyes but couldn't see and offended you. Please be magnanimous and spare my cheap life. I will never forget this great kindness. The black-clothed man hurriedly knelt down and begged for mercy. He didn't even care about the image of a Gold Core stage expert. In front of him, to be able to casually send 2 peak Gold Core stage experts flying, in his heart, Lin Yi must be a nascent soul stage expert without a doubt. Now that he thought about it, the few of them had actually stolen this person's goods. It could only be said that the ignorant were fearless. Moreover, they were really lucky. If this person had not deliberately hidden his strength and did not make a move, the few of them would have died without a complete corpse. And he wouldn't have been able to live until now. While desperately begging for mercy, the black-clothed man secretly rejoiced. Fortunately, he was more careful and didn't attack together. Otherwise, at this time, he would have sunk to the bottom of the sea like the third brother and the fourth brother. He carefully observed Lin Yi's expression. Whether he lived or died, it was all up to him. It wasn't that the black-clothed man didn't want to run, but the key was that Lin Yi's display of strength was too shocking. Even if he wanted to run, he couldn't. Lin Yi looked at the black-clothed man from head to toe, and remained expressionless and didn't speak. The black-clothed man's heart, this kind of pressure, this kind of life and death in the hands of life and death, was not something that ordinary people could bear. Even though the black-clothed man boasted that, at this time, he didn't dare to take a breath. Half kneeling to his stomach, he was half to his urine. Half, the black-clothed man's to the black-clothed man, and the black-clothed man, the black-clothed man. Question mark. Lin to him. Lins. Are you? Is to black. Black of you, black of. Eh? Ah. Oh, yes. Senior is right. I am black. The black-clothed man nodded quickly. The corners of his mouth twitched. I was dressed like this to show off my power and aura, to let people know that I'm not to be trifled with. Why did it suddenly become Little Black? Was this even a person's name? You tell me yourself. Do you want to live or die? Lin Yi asked playfully. Live, of course I want to live. The black-clothed man answered quickly. If he wasn't desperate, who would be willing to die like this? He still wanted to live well and enjoy a few hundred more years. Live? That's fine. I don't have much interest in killing people, so I'll help you. Lin Yi nodded slightly. Really? The black-clothed man was overjoyed. He quickly kowtowed and thank you, senior. Thank you, senior. I will never forget your great kindness. See you again. As he spoke, the black-clothed man hurriedly stood up and prepared to jump into the sea. Compared to staying on the boat, he would rather jump into the sea. Even if he drowned, he did not dare to stay on the boat. What if this demon changed his mind and decided to kill him? What should he do then? Come back. Lin Yi's voice suddenly turned cold, scaring the black-clothed man. He quickly stopped in his tracks and waited for his orders. Say. Senior, do you have any other orders? The black-clothed man suppressed the fear in his heart and asked. Did I say you could leave? Lin Yi said with an unfriendly smile. But. The black-clothed man's heart sank. He stuttered for a long time and could not say anything. At this moment, there was only one thought in his mind. Damn it, this demon is really going back on his word. Set sail. Lin Yi ordered coldly. The reason why he deliberately left this man behind was to set sail for him. After all, he had never had the experience of sailing alone. Even if he could learn how to control a ship, it was easy for him to master it with his ability. However, controlling a ship and sailing were two different things. In case there was an unexpected situation on the way, he may not be able to handle it alone. It was better to leave an experienced person with him. As a pirate, the black-clothed man in front of him must be an expert. He was the right person. Set sail? The black-clothed man thought he was going to die this time. When he heard Lin Yi's words, he was overjoyed. It turned out that he was not going to kill anyone. As long as he could set sail, he would do it even if he had to eat shit. He immediately nodded and asked, Yes, Senior, where are you going? Saliva Rock Island. Lin Yi said and sat down. Saliva Rock Island was the destination of this escort. Lin Yi had taken back the cargo ship, but he did not intend to take it for himself. He might as well do a good deed until the end. Saliva Rock Island? The black-clothed man was slightly taken aback, but he did not dare to say more. He was afraid that Lin Yi would be unhappy and change his mind, so he quickly nodded and did as he was told. Among all the islands in the luxuriant Arc Sea area, Saliva Rock Island was the closest to the South Island. It was often shrouded in miasma all year round, and there were not many people on the island, let alone ordinary businessmen. Even pirates were not willing to go there. After all, that place was easy to be attacked by the spirit beasts of the South Island. It was very dangerous. But now that Lin Yi had spoken, the black-clothed man could only do as he was told. He just had to take some risks to go to Saliva Rock Island, but if he disobeyed Lin Yi's order, he would be killed immediately. It was clear which one to choose. Although Saliva Rock Island belonged to the luxuriant Arc Sea area, in terms of geographical location, it was closer to the Zhenduan city than the center of the luxuriant Arc Sea area. After sailing on the vast sea for 2 days, Lin Yi had already arrived at Saliva Rock Island. Moreover, this escort was worth a fortune. How could the Heavens Equal Escort Agency only send one escort? Manor Lord Fong, you've misunderstood. That guy is a pirate that I caught to do manual labor. He's not an escort, Lin Yi explained with a smile. Pirates? Fong Baiwu stared blankly for a moment, then suddenly realized, no wonder the goods should have been shipped a month ago, but they only arrived now. Could it be because of the pirate attack? That's right. We should have arrived long ago, but we were robbed by these pirates midway. We had no choice at that time, and then we were delayed in Zhenduan City for a while. We were planning to return to Weilu City. We didn't expect to run into them again, so we simply snatched them back. I hope we didn't delay Manor Lord Fong's matter. Lin Yi explained the cause and effect of the incident in a few words. Although he didn't go into detail, Fong Baiwu could hear the difficulty in these few words. He immediately bowed deeply to Lin Yi and said, Young Hero Ling, on behalf of the 500 people of the Fong family, this Fong thanks you for your kindness. Manor Lord Fong is too kind. As an escort of the Heavens Equal Escort Agency, this is what I should do. There is no need for such kindness, Manor Lord Fong. Lin Yi quickly waved his hand. Sigh. Young Hero Ling, there's something you don't know, but the things on this ship are life-saving supplies for everyone in the Fong family. Fong Baiwu explained to Lin Yi, in a few days, it will be the Heaven's Sacrifice Day. Every year at this time, the miasma fog will return, and it is especially thick and poisonous. Even the locals who have lived here since they were young must rely on the miasma dispersal pill to survive. Otherwise, the consequences are unimaginable. If it's light, they will be crippled, and if it's heavy, they will die. It's that serious? Lin Yi couldn't help but be shocked. He thought that the locals here had been baptized by the miasma since young and should have adapted to it. It's even worse than that. The miasma dispersal pill is the lifeblood of our Fong family. However, a while ago, we were attacked by the spirit beasts, and even the storehouse was destroyed. Seeing that the Heaven's Sacrifice Day is approaching, I could only spend a large amount of money to ask the Hong Family Chamber of Commerce to buy the miasma dispersal pill. The other supplies are not important, and it's fine if they are lost, but the miasma dispersal pill cannot be lost. If young Hero Ling didn't deliver it in time, all 500 of us. Fong Baiwu shook his head with lingering fear. To be honest, these days, he had been so worried that his hair had turned white. If Lin Yi hadn't delivered the miasma dispersal pill today, he would have taken the entire Fong family and fled Saliva Rock Island. Although they could avoid the Heaven's Sacrifice Day, they couldn't avoid coming into contact with the outside world. The outside world was full of vicious and evil people, and they were mostly ordinary people. If they went out, many people would die. Moreover, it was difficult to leave one's homeland. Unless it was absolutely necessary, who would be willing to leave Saliva Rock Island? After Lin Yi heard this, he couldn't help but feel a mixture of emotions. Fortunately, he had encountered this group of pirates, and fortunately, he didn't just stand by and do nothing. Otherwise, so many people would have suffered. That was a few hundred lives. Pirates were detestable, but the most detestable one was the mastermind behind this incident, Wei Xiaodong. This guy didn't even let go of such life-saving goods, treating the lives of hundreds of people in Fong Family Village as if they were grass. It was obvious that he had completely lost his conscience. Such a scum was truly devoid of conscience. Originally, even if he had been tricked by this bastard, on account of Hong Zhong's old friend, Lin Yi didn't intend to specifically target this Wei Xiaodong. After all, he himself didn't suffer much losses. As long as he gave a warning, there was no harm in turning a blind eye. But now, Lin Yi changed his mind. This Wei Xiaodong, if he didn't make him pay a painful price, the heavens wouldn't tolerate it. Everyone in Fong Family Village was overjoyed. As they sent people to unload the goods on the ship, Fong Biwu personally came forward to welcome Lin Yi into the main hall of the Fong Family Village, treating him as an esteemed guest. To the entire Fong Family Village, Lin Yi could be considered as their true savior. If not for Lin Yi, their entire clan would have faced a calamity of annihilation. Naturally, they would receive him with the highest standards. Lin Yi originally didn't intend to stay on Saliva Rock Island for long, but he couldn't resist the enthusiasm of the people in Fong Family Village and was forced to stay for 2 days. After much persuasion, he was finally escorted out of Saliva Rock Island by the entire clan of several hundred people. These people from Fong Family Village were surprisingly simple and adorable. If it were any other ordinary person, they would have already done themselves justice by not taking it out on others. Chapter 43-33. Lin Yi waved goodbye to the people on the pier while sighing in his heart. But at the same time, he was a bit scared. These people were too enthusiastic and he wasn't someone who could keep people at arm's length. If it wasn't for the fact that the Heaven's Sacrifice Day was approaching and the miasma would affect the journey, he would have to stay here for at least a month. After leaving the pier, Lin Yi suddenly said, "Xiao Hei, come here." "Yes, yes." "Senior, what orders do you have?" The black-clothed man didn't dare to be negligent and quickly walked over. "You didn't make any trouble for me these 2 days and you didn't run away. You're very tactful." Lin Yi said lightly. "I wouldn't dare. Without Senior's orders, this one wouldn't dare." The black-clothed man nodded and smiled apologetically. But in his heart, he was cursing. Only a fool wouldn't want to run away. But Saliva Peng Island was the Fong family's territory. Unless he forcefully took the boat, he would only die. Moreover, Fong Baiwu had specifically asked the Fong family's old housekeeper to keep an eye on him. That was a nascent soul stage expert. Under his watch, how could he escape? It's good that you have this awareness. Otherwise, I'll have to kill you. Lin Yi smiled and said, go set sail. Oh, yes, yes. The black-clothed man quickly nodded, but then asked, may I ask, Senior, where are we going next? Dense Arc City. Lin Yi said lightly. Ah. The black-clothed man couldn't help but look embarrassed. Not only did he mess up Wei Xiaodong's task, but he also offended the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency. No matter which one he met, his end wouldn't be good. So the place he didn't dare to go the most was Dense Arc City. What? You have a problem? That's not a problem. I'll control the boat myself. As for you, you can go accompany your 3 pirate brothers. Lin Yi's eyes flashed with killing intent. No, I don't mind. I definitely don't mind. Senior, please calm down. I will do as you say. The black-clothed man hurriedly shook his head and hurriedly ran to sail the ship. Although the luxuriant Arc Sea area was a dangerous place for him, it was better than being killed by Lin Yi now. The situation was not in his favor, so he could only take one step at a time. A few days later, the cargo ship that Lin Yi was on finally docked at the dock of luxuriant Arc City. Looking at the bustling scene before him that was exactly the same as before, Lin Yi couldn't help but sigh with emotion. When he first came here with Huang Xiaotao, the two of them were only at the early stage of the Gold Core realm. They were unfamiliar with this place, and they were in trouble as soon as they came here. It could even be said that a great disaster was imminent. Only a month had passed, and Huang Xiaotao had already gone to the East Continent's Morning Star Academy, while he himself had already broken through to the middle Golden Core stage. Life is really full of ups and downs. The black-clothed man secretly stared at Lin Yi's reaction. At the same time, he was secretly accumulating his true qi. He was ready to wait for Lin Yi to show the slightest bit of negligence, and immediately make a move. Of course. He absolutely didn't dare to deal with Lin Yi alone. He just wanted to create a little chaos and take the opportunity to escape. After all, the current luxuriant Arc City was a place of trouble for him. It was better to escape as far as possible as early as possible. Lin Yi stood on the deck and looked at the busy dock below. He lazily stretched his waist. It seemed that he was preparing to jump off the cargo ship. At this moment, the black-clothed man's spirit was aroused and he was about to make a move. However, before he could throw a punch or half a kick, his eyes suddenly shook. Lin Yi's figure suddenly appeared in front of him, causing him to stagger in fright. Say. Senior, you are. The black-clothed man repeatedly retreated, while his heart was in a perilous situation. How is this guy so fast? He appears and disappears like a ghost. Little Black, it's rare for you to be so obedient. Now you want to run? Aren't you afraid that I'll kill you? Lin Yi raised his eyebrows. His divine sense had been locked on the black-clothed man. As long as there was the slightest fluctuation of true qi on the black-clothed man, it couldn't escape his perception. No, Senior, you misunderstood. I was just a little excited just now. I really didn't want to run. I swear to God. The black-clothed man hurriedly swore. Didn't want to run? Lin Yi smiled and nodded lightly. Since Little Black is so cooperative, it couldn't be better. You don't have to die, and you don't have to dirty my hands. It's a good thing for both of us. Yes, thank you, Senior, for sparing my little life. The black-clothed man was overjoyed when he heard this. He immediately breathed a sigh of relief. He thought that he was caught red-handed this time and he was dead for sure. However, before he could finish his qi, he suddenly blacked out. Lin Yi swept his foot on his head, and his whole body flew out. He fell awkwardly on the dock, causing a commotion among the surrounding people. Before he fainted, he said unwillingly, "Didn't you say that you wouldn't kill me?" "Yes, I won't kill you, but I didn't say that I won't kick you." Lin Yi raised the corner of his mouth slightly. He really didn't intend to kill anyone, but this guy was a master at the peak of the late-stage gold core realm, not an ordinary cat or dog. He was full of conspiracy. If he was allowed to jump around like this, he might cause trouble. Lin Yi was going to let him testify against Wei Xiaodong. Of course, it was better to make him faint first to save the trouble. Lin Yi jumped off the cargo ship and said a few words to the supervisor of the dock storage office. After the cargo ship was stored, he walked straight to the black-clothed man. Under the onlookers, he picked him up with one hand and was ready to return to the Heavens Equal Escort Agency to report. At this moment, a familiar voice suddenly sounded in the distance. He laughed proudly, "Ha ha ha ha, I thought you just ran away and didn't dare to come back in this life. I really didn't expect that after hiding for so long, there would be a day for you to come out again." When the surrounding people heard this voice, their faces changed, and they hurriedly moved aside. Lin Yi looked up and saw that it was his first enemy after coming to the luxuriant Arc Sea area, the young master of the poisonous mercenary group, Qing Jiutian. Behind him was still the peak of the early-stage nascent soul realm. "Humph, it's really a small world," Lin Yi smiled coldly and casually threw the unconscious black-clothed man aside. He had expected this scene. A person like Qing Jiutian was a guy who would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. Last time, he made a fool of him in public. If he didn't get back at him, he would never let it go. He estimated that these days, his one-eyed mercenary group spies had been planted at the dock. Before Lin Yi reached the shore, he had probably already received the news. "Well said, it's a small world. Since you have made an enemy like me, you are destined to be finished in this life." Qing Jiutian sneered proudly. When he was about to let his people take action, he suddenly looked stunned. "Why are you alone? Where is that chick? Why is she gone? Did she die outside? Ha 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 ha." Chapter 43-34. "She's not dead, but I'm afraid you're not far from death." The corners of Lin Yi's mouth raised a cold arc, and the killing intent in his eyes was fierce. At this point, it was impossible not to kill. You're still talking big when you're about to die. It seems that there is a saying that is true, a dead duck is stubborn. The more a duck like you is about to die, the more stubborn its mouth is, haha. Qing Jiutian laughed complacently. It was a bit of a pity that he had to deal with Lin Yi alone, but it wasn't a big problem. This way, he'd be able to vent his anger. As for the girl, he'd just have someone keep an eye on her later. Moreover, after returning last time, Old Kong also told him that the reason why Ling Yi and the woman were so powerful was because their joint attack skills were extraordinary. If they couldn't cooperate with each other, they would just be ordinary early gold core stage masters, not worth mentioning. He didn't expect that the two of them would separate themselves, which saved him a lot of trouble. Whether it's a lie or not, you'll know soon. Lin Yi's eyes flashed, and his figure suddenly swept toward the other party. His speed was so fast that even an early nascent soul stage master like Old Kong couldn't help but be caught off guard. Qing Jiutian was immediately shocked and hurriedly retreated. At this moment, he couldn't hide the fear on his face. Don't be fooled by his arrogant and condescending appearance. After all, he had learned his lesson from last time. Even if he knew that the other party's strength was much lower than his, he was still afraid. At the same time that Qing Jiutian retreated in panic, Old Kong, who was beside him, instantly unleashed his full strength. Before he even arrived, the powerful true qi of the peak of the early nascent soul stage poured out in torrents, firmly blocking in front of Qing Jiutian. It formed a thick protective barrier. Although Lin Yi's outbreak was sudden, Old Kong was actually prepared for it. In his view, Lin Yi was alone, and since he couldn't use a powerful joint attack skill, then he was no threat to him. The only chance of survival for the other party was in Qingjiutian. Therefore, as long as he protected Qingjiutian from harm, the other party was already a cooked duck, and could forget about flying away. Seeing this, Qingjiutian's heart settled. This was what he had instructed him to do before. He told Old Kong that no matter what happened, his first reaction must be to protect his own safety. Even if this Lin Yi's strength was much stronger than it looked, it was absolutely impossible for him to break through the defense of a peak early Yuanying stage master by himself. The truth was that there was a huge gap in strength between the nascent soul stage and the Aurous core stage. No matter how talented one was, it was not so easy to cross it. There was still a slight possibility, but those below the middle stage of the Jindan realm should not even think about it. However, in the next moment, the expression on Qingjiutian's face froze. As for Old Kong, it was even more unbelievable. Frenzied Fire 8 trigrams palm, 30th form. This was the strongest martial skill that Lin Yi had mastered so far. He struck out with his palm without any hesitation. However, his target had never been Qingjiutian. It was Old Kong. Qingjiutian was only at the late stage of the Aurous core stage. Lin Yi did not put this kind of trash in his eyes at all. There was only one person present who could really threaten him. Only Old Kong, a powerful peak early Yuanying stage master, could. Everything he did was to strangle this biggest threat as soon as possible. Last time, Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao suddenly attacked Old Kong. This time, only Lin Yi was alone, but he still made the same choice. This was something that Old Kong would never have thought of. At first glance, it seemed that he was attacking Qingjiutian. Everything was so realistic and logical. Old Kong did not hesitate to protect Qingjiutian with all his strength, but he did not expect that this was just a pretense. This time, because Old Kong put all his energy on Qingjiutian, he was almost defenseless. He did not even release his qi to protect his body. He really did not know whether to say that he was too straightforward or too much. Boom! Caught off guard, Lin Yi's materialized 8 trigrams fire palm landed right on Old Kong's chest. That wasn't the end of it. Lin Yi followed up with a powerful mad fire 1,000 legs. In front of so many people at the docks, Old Kong, a master at the peak of the early stage of the nascent soul stage, couldn't even fight back. Seeing Old Kong being kicked away and falling to the ground fiercely, spitting blood and foaming at the mouth, no one knew whether he was dead or alive. Everyone present couldn't help but gasp. When they looked at Lin Yi again, their eyes had completely changed to looking at a monster. There were many masters present. At this moment, many people also saw that Lin Yi's strength was probably only at the middle stage of the Aurous core stage. However, such a master at the middle stage of the Aurous core stage, under the watchful eyes of everyone, beat Old Kong, a master at the peak of the early Yuanying stage, into such a state. Everyone couldn't help but ask the same question. Was this world crazy? Glancing at Old Kong on the ground, no matter whether he was dead or not, at least for a few months, it was impossible to recover his strength. Even Lin Yi himself was a little surprised. In his expectation, it would be good if he could injure the other party in this confrontation. He did not expect to directly beat him into a pulp. It was so smooth that it was somewhat unbelievable. This could only be explained by 2 reasons. First, Lin Yi's strength was not what it used to be. Second, Old Kong, a master at the peak of the early Yuanying stage, was too straightforward, and even, There was a sudden burst of screams from the back of the crowd, and then they saw a panicked figure fleeing from the dock. It was Qingjiutian. Getting back his face was secondary. The only thing this high and mighty young master of the poisonous Eye mercenary group had to consider at this moment was whether he could escape back to the headquarters of the poisonous Eye mercenary group alive. Even Old Kong was so vulnerable in front of the other party. He was a master at the late Aurous core stage, whose strength was far inferior. At this moment, his heart was trembling. If the other party caught up, only death would be left. No matter how powerful his father Qing Haonan was, it would be useless. As for Old Kong, whose life and death was unknown, Qing Jiutian simply did not care. His own life was in danger. Who the hell cared about the life and death of this kind of subordinate? Looking at Qing Jiutian's fleeing back, Lin Yi smiled coldly, but he did not intend to chase. It was not that he did not dare to kill Qing Jiutian, but there was no need to do so at once. Up until now, the other party had already received a sufficient lesson and retreated in the face of difficulties. At the very least, they shouldn't dare offend him again in a short period of time. On the other hand, if he were to kill Qing Jiutian in public now, then even though it would be extremely easy, in this way, it would be equivalent to publicly declaring war against the entire Poison Eye mercenary group. The outcome would definitely be a fight to the death, and there wouldn't be the slightest room for negotiation. Chapter 43-35. With Lin Yi's current strength, he could deal with a few nascent soul practitioners, but if he wanted to fight Qing Haonan's Poison Eye mercenaries all by himself, he'd be dreaming. He had no chance of winning at all, and he wouldn't be able to stay in the Wei Arc waters anymore if he really had to fight to the death. Lin Yi was never afraid of trouble, but he would not look for trouble either. He did not want to fight to the death with the Poison Eye mercenary group unless it was absolutely necessary. At least before he left the Wei Arc Sea, it would be best to avoid this kind of thing if possible. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Lin Yi turned around, picked up the unconscious man in black, and walked towards the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency, leaving the people at the pier to discuss. Even an expert like Old Kong was crippled just like that. This person is really powerful. Looks like our Wei Arc City will have a new talent. He's obviously in the mid-golden core stage, but he could defeat an early original infant stage expert in one move. Who is he? Could he be a genius disciple from some powerful faction? Yes, it's very possible. I heard that the East Continent's Morning Star Academy has been selecting disciples in the Jinduan Sea for the past few days. This person could be a genius disciple from the Morning Star Academy who came here in advance. Ignorant and ill-informed, what do you know? This person is not a disciple from the Morning Star Academy. He's an escort from the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency. I think his name is Ling Yi or something. He's an expert that the young master, Qi Wenhan, personally tried to rope in. Yes, I remember now. He fought with Qing Ketian here last time. He also had the upper hand and lost to the same person twice. This young master Guatian is really blind. These people from the Poison Eye mercenary group have always been arrogant and despotic, especially this Master Kamita. Damn, they make me pay protection fees every day. Even the pier belongs to them. They finally met their match. Serves them right. Shoo. Lower your voice, the Poison Eye mercenary group is here. Let's hide. What followed was all sorts of discussions and chaos at the dock. None of this had anything to do with Lin Yi anymore. He grabbed the black-clothed man with one hand and tossed him into a haystack in the corner of the yard after arriving at the Equal Heaven Escort Agency. He would not wake up anytime soon, so there was no need to worry about him running away. As Lin Yi walked towards the mission hall, the two guards at the door were surprised to see Lin Yi suddenly return. They looked at each other in dismay. They whispered to each other, this guy actually dared to come back. His skin is really thick, what do you mean? Lin Yi furrowed his brows and looked at the two of them, confused. As escorts of the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency, Lin Yi had no idea what was going on. Returning to hand in the mission was a matter of course. How could he be so thick-skinned? There must be someone behind this. Discussions aside, the guards had no intention of stopping Lin Yi. No matter how fiercely they discussed in private, as long as there were no orders from above, they would not act on their own. They only looked at Lin Yi with a strange expression as they watched him enter the mission hall. At this moment, the mission hall was bustling with activity. There were more than 10 escorts gathered there, including the two people that Lin Yi had worked with before, Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan. Originally, the manager was assigning tasks to everyone, and the escorts were eager to give it a try. From the looks of it, this should be a lucrative and low-risk job. However, when Lin Yi walked in, the entire hall suddenly fell silent. Everyone's eyes were focused on Lin Yi, their expressions complicated. This was especially so for Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan. When they saw Lin Yi, their expressions changed. They looked at each other, their eyes clearly showing signs of panic. Lin Yi cupped his hands at the crowd and was about to speak when Li Yanji suddenly jumped out and pointed at Lin Yi, scolding, "What a daring traitor you are! Ling Yi, you actually have the guts to come back. How unexpected. Everyone, let's capture this traitor. Don't let him escape. That's right, the appearance of this scum here is an insult to all of us. We must capture him and punish him as a warning to others." Guan Ziyuan also jumped out to support him. Although the reactions of the rest of the people were not as intense as the two of them, the way they looked at Lin Yi was clearly filled with disdain. There were even some traces of enmity. Even so, it was impossible for Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan to incite them to attack together. Everyone present was a wily old fox that had roamed the Jianghu for many years. How could they be used so easily? It was indeed these two fellows who were behind this. When Lin Yi saw this melodramatic scene, how could he not understand the situation? In an instant, he had already figured out the cause and effect. What do you mean? Lin Yi laughed coldly and looked at the two of them without batting an eyelid. Today, he wanted to see how these two fellows were going to continue their act. What do I mean? Your skin is really thick to a certain extent. After committing such a shameless act, you still dare to come back and pretend that nothing happened? Li Yanji laughed coldly. In the eyes of those who did not know what had happened, it was as if the incident was real. Brat, let me tell you, in our Equal Heaven escort agency, escaping in the face of danger is considered a traitor. That is a serious crime. Moreover, what you did back then was not as simple as escaping in the face of danger. You acted as an accomplice to the evildoer, tarnishing the reputation of our entire escort agency. Moreover, we had to pay a sky-high compensation. Even if you had several lives, it would not be enough. Guan Ziyuan chimed in indignantly. When Lin Yi saw this scene, he secretly curled his lips. These two fellows did not have much strength or courage, but they were good at acting. No wonder so many people present were bewitched by them, acted as an accomplice to the evildoer. Why don't you tell me, how did I act as an accomplice to the evildoer? Lin Yi was not as exasperated as everyone thought he would be. Instead, he calmly asked with a smile. The way he looked at Li Guan and Guan Ziyuan was as if he was looking at two clowns. It was as if he did not care about the two of them at all. You traitor, how dare you be so arrogant? Li Guan and Guan Ziyuan looked at each other and were instantly shocked. To the two of them, the best situation was to provoke Ling Yi with words. Then, Ling Yi would be forced to do something out of desperation. That way, the crime would be completely confirmed. Then, they could take advantage of the chaos to silence Ling Yi and Guan Ziyuan. That way, there would be no repercussions. However, they did not expect that Ling Yi would still be so calm and composed even though the pot of shit had been placed on his head. He did not show any signs of anger. What should they do? They could not possibly kill someone in front of everyone, right? Chapter 43-36. In that case, the escorts present might not think much of it, but it would be hard to explain to the young master, Qi Wenhan. After all, he was the young master of the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency. No matter how big a mistake his escorts made, he had to deal with them personally. Outsiders had no right to interfere. Arrogant? I don't think so. An upright person is not afraid of a crooked shadow. But the two of you are so agitated. Do you have some unspeakable conspiracy? Lin Yi crossed his arms and smiled playfully. In his eyes, Li Guan and Lin Yi weren't strong enough to withstand a single blow, and they weren't good at scheming either. Clowns like them were nothing to worry about, and with Lin Yi's personality, there was no way he'd get angry over these two. After all, they were not on the same level. He had seen people fight, but he had never seen a man fight with ants. He would either ignore them or crush them to death. There was no need to get angry. Humph. Sharp-tongued. Seeing that the other party was so calm, Li Guan and Li Yanji suddenly had a bad feeling. If they continued to drag this out, something bad might happen. Li Yanji suddenly had an idea and asked, "What about that woman? Why didn't she come back with you? Did she follow the pirates and become a pirate's wife?" "That's right. Back then, you used your junior sister to curry favor with the pirates. It seems that you've completely lost your junior sister. How dare you come back alone? I've seen many shameless people, but I've never seen anyone as shameless as you." Guan Ziyuan quickly cooperated and sneered. "If you were just spreading rumors and causing trouble, I could consider sparing your worthless lives. But since you've slandered my junior sister, I can only say this to the two of you, I'm deeply sorry." Lin Yi's eyes suddenly turned cold. His eyes flashed with murderous intent. Although he did not release a strong aura, the escorts present all felt a chill in their hearts and unconsciously took a few steps back. "Humph. You've finally been poked in the foot by us. You're desperate, aren't you? Show me if you can." Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan were overjoyed instead of shocked. They continued to provoke Lin Yi with words. They couldn't wait for Lin Yi to fly into a rage out of humiliation. If that happened, everything would be fine. "Hee hee. Do you really think I won't dare to kill you?" Lin Yi glanced at the two clowns with some pity. If he didn't have any evidence in his hands, he might not be able to clear his name if he made a move on them. Unfortunately, he had solid evidence in his hands, so he wasn't afraid of them slandering him. "Humph, you sure talk big. Why don't you try and kill us? With your strength at the early gold core stage, you dare to be so arrogant? Aren't you afraid of being laughed at? Ha 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 ha." Li Guan continued to provoke them. Courting death. Lin Yi shook his head indifferently and immediately prepared to kill the two of them. One was at the peak of the middle stage of the Golden Core realm, and the other was at the middle stage of the Golden Core realm. However, at that moment, a person suddenly walked out from the inner hall. Looking at the crowd, he frowned and said, "Why aren't you working properly? Why are you making a ruckus here?" "Greetings, young master." The group of escorts hurriedly greeted him in unison. The person who had come was the young master of the Chitian escort agency, Qi Wenhan. Lin Yi suppressed his murderous intent as he watched the situation unfold. He had solid evidence on hand, so even if he killed Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan, the truth would still come out in the end. However, if he did it in front of Qi Wenhan, it would be a little too much. Even if he cleared things up afterward, he wouldn't be able to stay in the Equals escort agency any longer. Moreover, after interacting with him previously, Lin Yi felt that Qi Wenhan was actually quite a smart person. He didn't seem like someone who would be deceived by Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan with a few simple words. He might as well wait and see and listen to what he had to say first. His gaze swept across the crowd and finally landed on Lin Yi in the middle. Qi Wenhan couldn't help but be shocked, and his expression immediately became somewhat complicated. "Ling Yi, the traitor, has returned. Young master, please punish him severely as a warning to others." Seeing this, Li Guan and Guan Ziyuan's expressions also became somewhat strange as they hurriedly jumped out and said. The two of them secretly sighed in their hearts. Seeing that Ling Yi had already taken the bait, everything would be fine once they made a move. In the end, Qi Wenhan just had to come at this moment, and now the situation was out of their control again. Little did they know that if Qi Wenhan had not come out, the two of them would have already become two corpses. They didn't even know that they had taken a trip to the gates of hell, and even felt that it was a pity. The world really lacked many things, but there was no lack of idiots who thought they were smart. Upon hearing this, Qi Wenhan's expression darkened. Sizing up Lin Yi, he did not immediately speak. Instead, he waved his hand at the two of them, indicating that they should not be impatient. Ever since Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan returned empty-handed about a month ago, knowing that the precious goods had been stolen, the days of the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency had been extremely difficult. As the young master who was gradually taking over the agency, he was even more troubled. The reputation that the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency had built up over the past few decades had suffered greatly because of this incident. Even their status in the verdant Arc territorial waters was in jeopardy. Not only that, they had to pay the Hong Merchant Guild a total of 300,000 spirit jades according to the contract they had signed beforehand. Only then did they manage to force the Hong Merchant Guild to shut up and not spread the news. This series of losses was a huge blow to the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency, especially to the young master, Qi Wenhan. According to Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan's report, the main culprits behind all these losses were Lin Yi and Guan Ziyuan. Although the other party has 4 late Golden Elixir realm experts who are very powerful, we also have 4 people. Even if there is a huge disparity in our strength, if we were to fight to the death, we would still have a chance. However, we did not expect Ling Yi and his junior sister to surrender on the spot when they encountered the enemy. Instead, they became the pirates' minions, acting as accomplices to the evildoers. The 2 of us had no choice but to let the goods fall into the hands of the pirates. These were the exact words that Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan had said at that time. If this was really the case, then the main culprits of this incident were undoubtedly Lin Yi and Guan Ziyuan. There was even reason to speculate that the pirates had colluded with Lin Yi and Guan Ziyuan beforehand. Otherwise, they would not have waited so coincidentally, and Lin Yi and Guan Ziyuan would not have surrendered so naturally. However, Qi Wenhan did not completely believe this one-sided story. When he heard this, he was actually a little puzzled. Although he had only interacted with Lin Yi once, his instincts told him that Lin Yi wasn't the kind of person who would betray him. If they did not do this and others knew that Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan had surrendered without a fight, they would no longer be able to work as escorts in the future. At the very least, they would no longer be able to establish themselves in the Equal of Heaven Escort Agency. And now, the 2 of them were in an even more difficult situation. If everyone knew that the 2 of them not only surrendered without a fight, but also slandered their companion, it would be a serious matter. It wouldn't be as simple as losing their jobs. According to the rules of Jianghu, this kind of treachery was punishable by 3 knives and 6 holes. Therefore, no matter what, Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan had to convict Lin Yi today. Moreover, it had to be impeccable, leaving him speechless. Hearing this, Qi Wenhan nodded indifferently. In any case, the 3 of them were going to confront each other. As long as the truth was revealed, it didn't matter to him who spoke first. That day, we departed from Weiwan City. Logically speaking, the escort route should be strictly confidential. Other than young master and shopkeeper Wei, there were only the 4 of us escorts. Moreover, because the route we chose was very secluded, coupled with the thick sea fog, under normal circumstances, it was impossible for us to meet anyone, let alone pirates. Unless Li Yanji was afraid that he would make a mistake, so he weighed every word he said. When his words fell into the ears of the others, they sounded very reasonable. Unless what? Continue, Qi Wenhan said coldly. Yes, under such circumstances, we were still ambushed by pirates. There's only one explanation: someone is a traitor. Li Yanji said decisively. This was not something he had made up on the spot. After all, there was indeed something fishy about the appearance of the pirates. It would be too much of a coincidence to say that these pirates had not been prepared and had just happened to pass by that desolate place by accident. Hearing this, everyone nodded their heads. This analysis was reasonable. They were all experienced Jianghu people. Under such circumstances, the possibility of a traitor being a traitor was indeed very high. That's right. At that time, when the 4 pirates at the peak of the Golden Elixir realm appeared, Brother Li and I didn't even have time to react. Ling Yi and his junior sister surrendered without saying anything and even helped the pirates to keep an eye on the 2 of us. 2 against 6, we had no choice but to let them do as they pleased. It's obvious who the traitor is. Guan Ziyuan followed up and secretly exchanged glances with Li Yanji. The two of them obviously felt that this explanation was impeccable and were extremely pleased with themselves. For a moment, everyone's gaze was once again focused on Lin Yi. According to Li Guan and Guan Ziyuan's explanation, Lin Yi was really going to be accused of being a traitor. Ling Yi, what do you say? Qi Wenhan looked at Lin Yi and asked. Regardless of whether he believed the explanation of Li Guan and Guan Ziyuan, since it was a confrontation, he naturally had to give Lin Yi a chance to speak. Lin Yi smiled indifferently and turned his head to look at Li Guan and Guan Ziyuan. He raised his eyebrows and said, "Are you two done?" "Yes, why? Are you still trying to quibble? The facts are clear, there's nothing else to explain, right?" Li Yanji laughed coldly and immediately said to Qi Wenhan, "Young master, he has admitted it. Please punish him and severely punish the traitor as a warning to others." Qi Wenhan frowned. Although it sounded like it was indeed the case, the fact that Li Guan and Guan Ziyuan could not wait to convict Ling Yi was a little thought-provoking. "Hee, are you two stupid? Brother Qi asked me just now and not the two of you. You are so anxious to convict me. Even a fool can see that there's something fishy about this. Are you feeling guilty?" Lin Yi said calmly. "Feeling guilty? Both of us are speaking the truth. What is there to feel guilty about? Since things have already come to this, do you still want to accuse us of framing an innocent person? I advise you not to be too naive," Guan Ziyuan said with a cold smile. "From the beginning to the end, it's only the words of the two of you. Furthermore, there's no evidence to speak of. Do I still need to accuse you? Do you think everyone is listening to a storyteller and can make up whatever you want?" Lin Yi could not help but be amused as he looked at the two of them mischievously. "Evidence?" Guan Ziyuan was suddenly at a loss for words. His expression stiffened and he did not know what to say. "Why is there no evidence?" Li Yanji suddenly rolled his eyes and pointed at Lin Yi as he vowed, "There are two irrefutable pieces of evidence that are enough to prove that you are a traitor." "Oh. Let's hear it." Lin Yi was not anxious at all. The way he looked at Li Guan and Guan Ziyuan was no different from watching a monkey on the street. He wanted to see what kind of tricks this guy could come up with. Chapter 43-38. Qi Wenhan and the rest of the crowd also stared at Li Yanji. If the evidence was truly irrefutable, then Ling Yi could forget about leaving the Equal of Heaven escort agency ever again. The damage he had caused to the agency was more than enough to be repaid with a few lives. "First, Guan Ziyuan and I came back a month ago, but you only came back now. If you weren't involved with the pirates, why didn't you come back with us?" Li Yanji laughed coldly and proudly. Everyone nodded when they heard this. This was indeed quite a suspicious point, and it could also be used as evidence because it could support what they had said before. They had no idea that it wasn't that Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao didn't want to come back with them, but that they couldn't and were trapped in Jinduan City. What else? Lin Yi did not refute and continued to look at Li Yanji with a faint smile. "Secondly, why didn't your junior sister Huang come back with you? It's obvious that she was taken in as a pirate's wife by the pirates, so she can't come back, isn't that so?" At this point, even Li Yanji himself began to admire his quick-wittedness. The evidence he had grasped was simply flawless, as if it was real. Sure enough, after listening to his two so-called pieces of evidence, Qi Wenhan and the rest of the people present, who were originally skeptical, now believed at least 70 to 80%. Unless Lin Yi could bring out stronger evidence than this, no matter how extravagant his words were, it would be of no use. I really couldn't tell that you're actually a talent." Lin Yi wasn't as flustered as everyone thought he would be. Instead, he calmly teased, "With your eloquence. To be able to make the dead come alive, to be able to make the crooked straight, rather than wasting one's talent as an escort, he might as well switch to selling insurance. If that didn't work, a matchmaker would do. Anyway, I'm sure you'll earn more than you do now. Brat, let me give you a word of advice. You'd better watch your mouth. Don't think that our escort agency doesn't kill people. Shameless traitors like you deserve to be punished. Li Yanji said angrily. Although he didn't understand what kind of industry selling insurance was, he knew what a matchmaker was. Asking a dignified middle-stage gold core expert like him to be a matchmaker, this brat really didn't use any dirty words when he scolded others. Ling Yi. If you have any objections to what the two of them just said, you can raise them in front of everyone. Right now, there is no final conclusion. I hope I didn't misjudge. Qi Wenhan frowned slightly. Now that they heard it, Ling Yi was indeed the most suspicious person. At the very least, Li Guan's words and the two pieces of evidence could be said to be logical. It could almost explain all the doubts that everyone had. The only thing that could not be explained was, why did Ling Yi dare to return alone? Young master, the evidence is irrefutable. I don't think he has anything to say. Hee, in the face of irrefutable evidence, what's the use of your glib tongue? Li Yanji sneered proudly. That's right. Ling Yi, hurry up. If you have any evidence that can reverse the verdict, hurry up and say it. Otherwise, if you wait for the fight to start and then claim innocence, it won't be justifiable. Guan Ziyuan, who was at the side, laughed loudly. He didn't believe that Lin Yi had any evidence in his hands at all. This time, victory was already in his hands. I have nothing to say. Lin Yi shook his head lightly. Ha ha ha. Now you finally have nothing to say, right? Hurry up and admit your guilt. Li Guan and Guan Ziyuan became even more complacent. In such a situation, danger could be averted with just a few words from the two of them. After they killed Ling Yi, they must find a restaurant to have a few drinks and celebrate. When Qi Wenhan saw this scene, he couldn't help but frown deeper and deeper. He gave Lin Yi a chance to refute, but in the end, Lin Yi had nothing to say. Could it be that he had misjudged him? Lin Yi looked at the crowd, and without saying anything, he suddenly turned and walked towards the courtyard outside. Quickly take him down, this brat wants to escape. Li Guan and Guan Ziyuan hurriedly shouted. Since the situation had already developed to this stage, they had to take this opportunity to kill Lin Yi. Otherwise, even if this brat lived for another day, he could still be a variable. To be safe, they had to nip this problem in the bud. Hearing the shouts of the two people, the two guards at the door couldn't help but turn their heads to look at Lin Yi, and then looked at Qi Wenhan, waiting for their young master's orders. Qi Wenhan really didn't think that Lin Yi would have such a reaction, and he couldn't help but hesitate. However, he still waved his hands at the two guards, indicating that there was no need to stop them. After all, the two pieces of evidence that Li Yanji had just presented could be used as evidence to a certain extent, but to say that Lin Yi could be convicted based on this alone was a bit far-fetched. Furthermore, Lin Yi was only an escort in name. If they couldn't really convict him, even if the mission failed, the most the escort agency could do was terminate his contract. If they had to blame someone, they could only blame Qi Wenhan for misjudging him. Even if they mobilized a large number of people to take down Lin Yi, what use would it be? Make him pay? Not to mention the reputation of the Heavens Equal Escort Agency, could he even afford the 300,000 spiritual jades that they had to pay to Wei Xiaodong of the Hong Merchant Guild? Or was it better to just beat him up to vent his anger? Apart from making people look down on the Heavens Equal Escort Agency, what use would that be? However, if Lin Yi just let him walk away without a word of explanation, Qi Wenhan couldn't accept it. Even if it was purely for the sake of convincing the public, he had to do something about it. Forget it, if this fellow takes a step out of the escort agency, then I'll make him stay. Qi Wenhan hesitated for a moment before he finally made his decision. However, he didn't expect that Lin Yi had no intention of leaving the agency at all. After making a trip to the courtyard, he turned around and returned with another person in his hands. Bang! Lin Yi casually threw the unconscious man in black in front of the crowd. What's the meaning of this? Chi Wen-han couldn't help but narrow his eyes as he looked at the man on the ground in bewilderment. Everyone else was also confused and looked at each other. Among the crowd, only Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan were shocked and they saw the man in black's appearance. When they looked at Lin Yi again, their gazes were filled with disbelief. Wasn't this the pirate leader? How did he end up in this kid's hands? Both of them couldn't hide the fear in their eyes. This was really bad. This man in black was a solid witness. In front of him, everything they had fabricated before, including the two so-called pieces of evidence, was nothing more than a fleeting cloud that couldn't withstand a single blow. Once the truth was revealed, the two of them could forget about having a foothold in the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency. Once their names became infamous, they wouldn't be able to survive in the entire Wayark territorial waters. Chapter 43-39. How dare you? Why did you bring a bunch of random people into our agency? Are you trying to mess up our Equal of Heaven Escort Agency? Hurry up and throw him out. Li Yanji did not have time to think too much. Before Lin Yi could speak, he rushed forward and pretended to throw the man in black out. At the same time, he used his body to block everyone's sight and was about to make a move secretly. Although it was a little risky, he could not think of a better way at the moment. He had to kill him quickly. Slap. This kind of petty calculation could be seen at a glance. How could Lin Yi let him succeed? Without using any martial arts, he directly raised his hand and slapped Li Yanji away in front of everyone. Li Yanji crashed into a courtyard wall and fell into the dust, unable to get up for a long time. Guan Ziyuan also wanted to make a move, but Lin Yi frightened him with a look. It was like a little lamb being stared at by a hungry wolf. In an instant, his scalp went numb and he did not dare to take another step forward. Both of them were in the middle stage of the Gold Core realm, but the difference in strength was more than 10 times. If he really wanted to kill, Lin Yi could kill him with one finger. He had been in Jianghu for many years. Although he did not have extraordinary eyesight, at least he had a little intuition for danger. The others looked at Lin Yi with vigilance. No one expected Lin Yi to suddenly make a move. Moreover, no one expected that this guy, who was in the early stage of the Gold Core realm, could now send Li Yanji flying with one slap without batting an eyelid. However, Chi Wen-han was not too surprised by this. Back when Lin Yi was at the dock, he was an expert at the level of Old Kong. It was not surprising that Li Yanji, who was in the middle stage of the Gold Core realm, was sent flying with one slap. At this moment, he was only curious about the background of the man in black lying on the ground. Hee hee. It seems that you two still recognize him. What now? You want to throw it out? You want to silence me? Didn't the two of you just say that I surrendered to this guy? Now let him personally prove it to everyone, isn't it more convincing? Lin Yi sneered as he kicked the man in black twice, waking him up. Senior, spare my life. Senior, please spare my life. After the black-clothed man woke up, he couldn't care less about the people around him, nor did he dare to run away. The first thing he did was to kowtow to Lin Yi and beg for mercy. Everyone immediately looked at each other. The man in black did not deliberately restrain his aura. They could see that he was clearly an expert at the peak of the late stage of the Gold Elixir realm. Why did he kowtow to Lin Yi? However, Chi Wen-han didn't care about this. He looked at the black-clothed man and turned to look at Lin Yi. Are you saying that this person is the pirate who robbed me? That's right. Lin Yi nodded lightly. He was too lazy to explain anything. In fact, there was no need to explain anything. Chi Wen-han was a smart man. Just now, Li Yanji's reaction of wanting to silence him had already proved the credibility of this person's identity. At the same time, it also proved that what the two of them had said before was nonsense. Speak, what the hell is going on? Chi Wen-han suddenly grabbed Guan Ziyuan's collar with one hand and growled in a low voice with an unfriendly expression. When he realized that he had been played like a fool by his subordinates, it was impossible for him to continue suppressing it. Li Yanji fell into the pile of stones and couldn't get up. He had escaped. At this moment, Guan Ziyuan was left alone. Facing Qi Wenhan's anger alone, he couldn't say a word. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, this guy was so scared that he peed himself. The smell of urine made everyone frown. Qi Wenhan's mouth twitched a few times. He was afraid that this guy would pee on him, so he immediately threw it aside with a look of disgust. Why don't you explain? Why did you rob the goods, and how did you know the route we took? Lin Yi kicked the man in black and said calmly, hurry up, I'll only give you one chance. If you can't explain clearly, then don't say anything. With your 3 brothers as examples, you should know what kind of person I am. Think about how ruthless I am. The man in black trembled. He hadn't seen how his second brother had died, but he had seen clearly what had happened to his third and fourth brothers. If this guy in front of him wanted to kill him, it would be as easy as flipping his hand. Yes, senior, please don't worry. I won't dare to hide anything. The man in black nodded his head repeatedly, then said to Qi Wenhan and the rest of the crowd, I received news and a map of the route beforehand, so I waited there in advance. I was prepared to rob this ship of goods. According to our previous agreement, we would hand over the goods to the other party and receive a large sum of money. Who is the other party? Qi Wenhan's expression turned cold. The losses caused by this incident were too great, and he had to find the culprit. Otherwise, the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency wouldn't be able to raise its head in front of others. The man in black looked at Lin Yi, then slowly said to the crowd, Hong Merchant Guild, Wei Xiaodong. As soon as these words came out, everyone, including Qi Wenhan, Li Yanji, and Guan Ziyuan, who had fallen to the side, couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. This answer was hard to believe, but after thinking about it carefully, it seemed to make sense. This was a large transaction worth 300,000 spiritual jades. Most people wouldn't have such insider information, nor would they have such a large appetite. Furthermore, everyone had already determined that someone must have leaked information about this incident. It was just that they had all been suspicious of Lin Yi, and didn't even think about Wei Xiaodong. You're saying that he took back his own goods, and now wants to extort 300,000 spiritual jades from the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency? Qi Wenhan's expression turned extremely ugly. With regards to this unexpected answer, the rest of the people present might have doubted it, but after hearing it, Qi Wenhan believed it without a doubt. The reason was simple. Now that he thought about it, when they were finalizing the details of the contract, Wei Xiaodong's behavior was indeed strange and unusual. At that time, in the contract, Wei Xiaodong requested that if anything happened, the escort agency must pay the full price. For this, he didn't even hesitate to specify the value of the goods worth 300,000 spiritual jades. This was something that had never happened in the past. After all, the 2 agencies had been working together for more than a year or 2, and nothing had ever happened. The risk was extremely low, and there had never been a time when they failed. Thus, he didn't have to deliberately emphasize this. Aside from this, there was another extremely unusual behavior. Wei Xiaodong insisted on personally planning the route of the escort. According to the rules, only the manager and the person in charge of the escort agency knew the route of the escort. No one else was allowed to know, even if Wei Xiaodong was the employer. However, because of their old friendship, and because he had to win over this big client in the future, Qi Wenhan didn't have much vigilance at that time. Chapter 43-40. Moreover, the reason that Wei Xiaodong gave at that time was that this batch of goods was a lifesaver for the Fong family manor on Saliva Peng Island, so he had to ensure that nothing would go wrong. It sounded reasonable, so Qi Wenhan didn't think too much about it and didn't ask him to leave. He would never have thought that the source of Wei Xiaodong's abnormal behavior would be this. It was because he wanted to swallow the goods for himself. He wanted to gain something without risking anything. He wanted to use this opportunity to extort a total of 300,000 spiritual jades. What a huge appetite. Yes, that's what happened. The man in black nodded and glanced at Lin Yi timidly. It was too late for regrets in his heart. He thought that cooperating with Wei Xiaodong would be a good business deal. Who knew that such a ferocious god of slaughter would actually be an armed escort? If he had known this earlier, he wouldn't have dared to rob the goods even if he had 10,000 guts. Tell me in detail the situation when you robbed the goods. Qi Wenhan suppressed the anger in his heart and said with a straight face. Robbed the goods? Oh, but there's nothing to say. After the four of us boarded the ship, they didn't resist. After all, the difference in strength was so great. If they dared to resist, then only death awaited them. As the man in black spoke, he was secretly suspicious. Although it seemed like this at first glance, with this god of slaughter's strength, even if it was 1 against 4, it would be easy. Why didn't he make a move at that time? Who was the first to surrender at that time? Qi Wenhan asked with a cold face. Well, wasn't it those 2 guys? The man in black pointed at Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan. Everyone's face suddenly changed. Their eyes were full of contempt and disdain as they looked at Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan. These 2 guys were the first to surrender, and after returning, they actually poured dirty water on their companions. They were shameless to this extent. They were really fucking scumbags from head to toe. Don't slander him. This person is not a pirate at all. What he said is also false. Young master, you must not believe him. Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan couldn't care less about their sorry state. They hurriedly rolled and crawled as they cursed. Even at this point, they still didn't want to give up. They felt that as long as they insisted that this person was hired by Lin Yi to act, they still had a chance of survival. False? There was no need for Lin Yi to open his mouth. Qi Wenhan himself had already sent the 2 hopeless idiots flying with a kick each. With a murderous look, he shouted coldly, even now, you 2 are still speaking for Wei Xiaodong. Can I assume that you are all his accomplices? No. Young master, we. Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan's faces were bruised and swollen. Their faces were ashen as they stammered, unable to speak. They didn't know that when Wei Xiaodong and Qi Wenhan were discussing, they were even more unaware that Qi Wenhan had already determined that the mastermind behind this incident was Wei Xiaodong without a doubt. At this time, they were splashing dirty water on Lin Yi. Not only would it not help the situation, but they would also be considered as Wei Xiaodong's accomplices. Originally, it was just a matter of losing their jobs. If they continued to cause trouble, they might even lose their lives. Continue speaking. Qi Wenhan turned to the black-clothed man and said. As for Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan, he didn't even bother to look at them. If these 2 idiots wanted to recklessly continue to pester him, he didn't mind sending them to hell. This was already taking into account that the 2 had worked in the escort agency for so long. Even if they didn't contribute much, they still worked hard. Otherwise, Qi Wenhan really wouldn't show them any mercy. Just based on the fact that the 2 were suspected of colluding with Wei Xiaodong, it wouldn't be too much to beat them to death. After we robbed the escort, we took a detour to the True Segment Sea and left them in the True Segment City. Originally, we wanted to go to the Far Star Sea as planned and deliver the cargo ship to Wei Xiaodong as soon as possible. We didn't expect to encounter a storm halfway, so we had to return to the True Segment City. Then, we encountered the Morning Star Academy coming out to select disciples. They immediately put the entire pier under martial law, so we couldn't enter or leave. So we were trapped in the True Segment City. The black-clothed man said helplessly with a depressed expression. If it weren't for these trivial matters, they wouldn't have met Lin Yi again, and naturally wouldn't have ended up like this. Once a person was unlucky, even drinking cold water would be enough to fill the gaps between one's teeth. Far Star Sea? That place is even further away from here than the True Segment Sea. You didn't receive any news of your transaction there. Wei Xiaodong is really careful. Qi Wenhan sneered. If they had carried out the transaction in the luxuriant Arc Sea, no matter how careful they were, it would have been impossible to completely avoid the eyes and ears of the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency. It was obvious that Wei Xiaodong had planned this for a long time and was well prepared. In the end, at the truce segment pier, we were discovered by the senior, and then the black-clothed man looked at Lin Yi timidly and spread out his hands speechlessly. Then what? Qi Wenhan couldn't help but ask. The others present also had strange expressions on their faces. Hee, then I killed them one by one. He was the only one left, and I brought him back. Lin Yi replied with a faint smile. Ah. Qi Wenhan and the others suddenly looked at each other and sized up Lin Yi again. The other party was 4 experts at the peak of the late Golden Core stage, but they had been killed one by one. Moreover, he had even captured the last guy alive. How strong was he? Even an expert at the consummate stage of the Golden Core stage might not be able to do this. He had to be at least a nascent soul stage expert, right? But even Qi Wenhan himself wouldn't believe that Ling Yi was actually a nascent soul stage expert. He had roped in a potential expert on a whim, but he hadn't expected him to be so fierce. This time, he had really made a big profit. If it was purely Lin Yi himself who said this, everyone would only think that he was bragging, but the black-clothed man was kneeling in front of them, so they couldn't not believe it. Everyone looked at Lin Yi with eyes full of awe. After I seized the cargo ship, I sent it to Saliva Rock Island's Fong family manor. This is the letter of escort signed by Manor Master Fong Biwu. Please examine it, Brother Qi. Lin Yi took out the letter of escort and handed it to Qi Wenhan in front of everyone. Qi Wenhan took it and glanced at it. After confirming, he suddenly laughed and affectionately held Lin Yi's shoulders with both hands, saying, I'm sorry, Brother Ling. Because of the slanderous words of these 2 bastards, I almost misunderstood you. I have wronged you just now. I represent the entire Heaven's Equal Escort Agency and solemnly apologize to you. Brother Qi is too polite. I won't take such a small matter to heart. Lin Yi was slightly stunned, and his eyes couldn't help but show some appreciation. He really hadn't thought that Qi Wenhan would be so straightforward. As the young master of an escort agency, being able to so calmly admit his mistake in front of everyone was a very rare thing. Chapter 43-41. Normally, even if they knew they were in the wrong, they wouldn't lower themselves to apologize for the sake of their pride. This Qi Wenhan was quite the character. Brother Ling is magnanimous, but as the head of the escort agency, I cannot turn a blind eye to such an atrocious incident. Otherwise, I might as well hand over my authority as soon as possible and go home to take care of my children. Qi Wenhan said with a serious expression. Hearing this, everyone's expressions turned cold. Looking at the young master's stance, he was ready to take action. However, this was to be expected. Qi Wenhan had been in charge of the agency for 5 years, and this could be said to be the most serious incident that had ever happened under his command. Not only had they been set up and blackmailed, but the most hateful thing was that the internal escorts had been trying to cover up the truth. If such a terrible incident was not dealt with, then the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency would not be far from destruction. Feeling Qi Wenhan's cold gaze, Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan felt as if their hearts had fallen into an ice cellar. Ignoring their cold hands and feet, they begged for mercy. Young master, we were wrong, we really were wrong. We only surrendered because of a moment of fear. We really didn't collude with Wei Xiaodong. Please, young master, be merciful and spare our lives. Li Yanji, Guan Ziyuan, you are both veteran permanent escorts. In terms of seniority, you are even older than me. You were already here before I took over. If it wasn't for this incident, even if you were a little slack in your work, I could only turn a blind eye. After all, even if you didn't make a contribution, you would still have worked hard, Qi Wenhan said calmly. However, the calmer he was, the more afraid Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan became. This was a sign that a storm was coming. On the contrary, if Qi Wenhan were to fly into a rage now, even if he beat them up to vent his anger, he wouldn't be too harsh on them later. No. Young master, we Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan still wanted to beg for mercy, but unfortunately, it was too late to say anything at this point. Don't waste your breath begging for mercy. This time, not only did the two of you surrender voluntarily, causing our escort agency to suffer a huge loss, you even inverted the truth and framed your companions, committing such a despicable act of treachery. Do you think I'll spare you two bastards? Qi Wenhan's face flashed with killing intent. Li Guan and the other man were immediately frightened out of their wits. They lost control of their knees and knelt on the ground with a thud. They begged for mercy. Young master, please spare our lives. Young master, please spare my life. Whether or not the two of you can keep your lives is not up to me to decide now. Whether you live or die, I'll leave it all up to Brother Ling to decide. Qi Wenhan then turned his gaze towards Lin Yi, letting Lin Yi, the victim who had been slandered, personally decide. Letting him vent his anger was also a form of apology in disguise. Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan looked at each other, and their hearts sank. They were done for. If they allowed Ling Yi to decide their life and death, would they still have a way out of this? Brother Qi, you can deal with it yourself, I have no objections. Lin Yi waved his hand dismissively. To be honest, Li Guan and Guan Ziyuan were just insignificant clowns in his eyes. Whether they lived or died, he couldn't be bothered to care. Moreover, this was Qi Wenhan's territory. The other party handed over the power of life and death to Lin Yi as an apology, and Lin Yi's personality had always been one to respect others tenfold. Since the other party knew how to conduct himself, Lin Yi naturally wouldn't do such a thing. Qi Wenhan was stunned for a moment, and then he looked at Lin Yi even more highly. Not only did this person hide his strength, but he was also neither servile nor overbearing when dealing with matters. He was magnanimous, which was rare. If that's the case, then thank you for your understanding, Brother Ling. Qi Wenhan no longer stood on ceremony, and his gaze fell upon the trembling Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan. In a cold voice, he announced, from today onwards, my Heaven's Equal Escort Agency will fire Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan, and put them on the agency's blacklist. This will be a public announcement, and they will be kicked out immediately. As soon as these words were spoken, the crowd couldn't help but whisper amongst themselves. Li Guan and Guan Ziyuan had committed such a treacherous act, so it was only natural that they would be fired. It was likely that they wouldn't be able to receive even a single cent of the remuneration they had accumulated over the past few days. It was already good enough that they weren't required to pay a sky-high price for their losses, let alone talk about remuneration. However, putting them on the agency's blacklist and making a public announcement was a more serious matter. This meant that their misdeeds would be known by all other escorts, and from then on, no escort agency would be willing to hire them. At least, they wouldn't be able to survive in the field of escorts anymore. Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan looked at each other. After hearing such a punishment, they weren't shocked, but were instead overjoyed. From their point of view, it was already good enough that they were able to keep their lives. Although it was a pity that they wouldn't be able to work as escorts anymore, they were both Golden Core experts after all, so they wouldn't have to worry about having nowhere to go. Alright, we'll leave now. Seeing that their lives were saved, Li Guan and Guan Ziyuan immediately became much more resolute. After giving Lin Yi a venomous look, they turned around and walked out the door. Lin Yi narrowed his eyes noncommittally, not paying any attention to these two clowns. However, he was a little surprised. Could it be that this Qi Wenhan was really a soft-hearted person? Although such a punishment wasn't out of the question, wasn't it a little too light? The matter didn't end there. Li Guan and Guan Ziyuan bowed as they walked out. Suddenly, Qi Wenhan's cold voice rang out behind them, "Leave? Did I say that you can leave just like that?" As soon as he finished speaking, the guards in front immediately blocked their way. Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan's hearts sank as they turned their heads stiffly to look at Qi Wenhan. Trembling with fear, they asked, "Young master, do you have any other instructions?" What I said just now was just a punishment for you, as the head of the escort agency, for your inaction as escorts. I haven't even settled the score of the two of you going back on your word and slandering brother Ling Yi. Qi Wenhan said with a cold smile. As it turned out, he wasn't done. The corner of Lin Yi's mouth instantly curled up. Although he didn't think much of Li Guan and Guan Ziyuan, he was still a little unhappy to let them go just like that. However, it seemed that Qi Wenhan didn't intend to let them go just like that. Then what else do you want? Li Guan and Guan Ziyuan said in fear. According to the rules of the pugilistic world, there is only one consequence for going back on your word. I won't make things difficult for you, but I won't let you off so easily either, Qi Wenhan said coldly. This time, he didn't just want to give Lin Yi a satisfactory answer. More importantly, he wanted to use this opportunity to make an example out of everyone in the escort agency. Chapter 43-42. 3 Knives and 6 Holes. Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan's faces were pale. Their legs gave way and they knelt down again. Even the other escorts around them looked at each other in dismay. The young master was serious this time. Guards, execute them. Qi Wenhan placed his hands behind his back and ordered coldly. The guards of the escort agency looked at each other and did not dare to delay. They hurriedly ran over and tied Li Guan and Guan Ziyuan to a metal frame in the courtyard outside. During the process, Li Guan and Guan Ziyuan could only let the guards tie them up. They did not dare to move or use their true qi to protect themselves. Although the 3 knives and 6 holes were terrifying, with the physique of a golden core expert, they would not die immediately. However, if they resisted and started fighting, they would not be far from death. The so-called 3 knives and 6 holes referred to stabbing the body 3 times, and each stab had to be right through, leaving 6 bloody holes. It was a torture second only to suicide. Many sects and forces on the heavenly island still used this punishment. As for the Wayark territorial waters, it was a widely accepted rule of Jianghu. 1 stab, 2 stab, 3 stab. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan fainted on the spot, accompanied by the blood-curdling screams of pigs being slaughtered, accompanied by the scalp-numbing sound of the blade piercing into the bones. Although they avoided the absolutely fatal parts such as the heart, the 3 knives and 6 holes were still serious injuries. Even though they were experts of the gold core stage, they were no exception. The entire audience was silent. Under the intimidation of such a cruel punishment, no one dared to whisper to each other. Their gazes towards Qi Wenhan were much more respectful and fearful than before. This was the effect of killing the chicken to warn the monkey. Lin Yi nodded to himself as he watched. Although this incident had caused great losses, it was not necessarily a bad thing for Qi Wenhan. At least from now on, his control over the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency would be much higher than before. This could be considered a blessing in disguise. Throw them out. Qi Wenhan waved his hand with a cold expression. The guards immediately dragged the 2 who had fainted from the pain out like dead pigs and threw them onto the streets outside. It attracted the attention of passers-by. The 2 degenerates had been thrown out, but the rest of the crowd still held their breaths as they waited for Qi Wenhan to continue speaking. Brother Ling, are you interested in coming with me to the Hong Merchant Guild? I must find that old bastard Wei Xiaodong and properly settle this debt. Qi Wenhan said, gnashing his teeth. This time, Wei Xiaodong, the old fox, had set a trap for him and foolishly jumped into it. Not only did he have to pay 300,000 spiritual jades, but he had also lost his prestige and the reputation of the entire Heaven's Equal Escort Agency. There was no way he could swallow this debt. Of course. Lin Yi smiled faintly. Not only was he the person involved, but he was also the one who caught the pirate leader as a witness. It was impossible for him not to go for this kind of thing. Moreover, Wei Xiaodong was such a black-hearted person that he treated the hundreds of lives of the Fong family village on Rock Island like grass. Even if he was Hong Zhong's friend, Lin Yi couldn't just ignore him. All right. Qi Wenhan immediately waved his hand and said, all of you, put down what you are doing. Follow me. Yes. Everyone replied in unison. Compared to going to the Hong Merchant Guild to settle the debt with Wei Xiaodong, everything else was already insignificant. Qi Wenhan was a straightforward person who did what he said. He immediately led a group of people to the Hong Merchant Guild. This group of people was aggressive and immediately attracted a large crowd of onlookers. Previously, when the half-dead Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan were thrown out, it had already caused an uproar. Now, the news had spread from 1 to 10, and from 10 to 100. Before Qi Wenhan and the rest had even arrived at the Hong Chamber of Commerce, the news had already spread like wildfire. This was exactly what Qi Wenhan wanted. For this kind of matter, the bigger the commotion, the better. At least everyone would know that this matter was not due to the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency's incompetence, but rather the Hong Merchant Guild's Wei Xiaodong. This way, they could also push Wei Xiaodong, the mastermind, to the teeth of the storm and ruin his reputation. The group of people arrived at the Hong Merchant Guild in a grandiose manner. When they stood at the entrance, the surrounding customers hurriedly made way for them. They thought that this group of people was here to seek revenge. This kind of thing was not uncommon in the chaotic Wayark territorial waters, and they were afraid of being caught in the crossfire. Everyone in the Hong Merchant Guild acted as if they were facing a formidable enemy. However, the guest officials who were guarding the place were all alarmed. They stood in front of the crowd with a solemn expression. After all, this time, Qi Wenhan had not only brought a group of escorts, but also a few original infant stage experts who were guarding the escort agency. If a battle broke out with such a lineup, the Hong Merchant Guild might not be able to handle it with just the few guest officials. There was no need for Qi Wenhan to announce anything. A servant had already run to the backyard and reported to Wei Xiaodong, "Manager, this is bad. The Heaven's Equal Escort Agency is here to cause trouble." What? Wei Xiaodong was stunned when he heard this. When he regained his senses, he was shocked. He could not help but mutter to himself, could it be that the matter has been exposed? That was impossible. Those pirates were all experienced veterans. They would not be caught so easily. Furthermore, Qi Wenhan had just sent over 300,000 spirit jades as compensation yesterday. How could they have turned against him in just one day? Although Wei Xiaodong was suspicious, he did not panic. He quickly regained his composure and calmly instructed the servant, "I understand. Invite Qi Wenhan to the guest hall." "Then, where are the others?" the servant asked with a troubled expression. "Of course we will keep them out. Do you think our Hong Merchant Guild is a place where they can come and cause trouble whenever they want? Hurry up and go." Wei Xiaodong glared at the servant. The servant hurriedly nodded and left. A moment later, Wei Xiaodong saw an enraged Qi Wenhan in the guest hall. However, what surprised him was that the servant did not only bring Qi Wenhan in, but 3 people. Of the 2 people who came in with Qi Wenhan, he had seen Lin Yi once before. He knew that he was one of the escorts who had escorted the goods last time. However, when he saw the other person, his eyes flashed. Why was this guy here instead of going to the distant Star Sea region? However, no matter how flustered he was, Wei Xiaodong did not show it on his face. He only glanced at the man in black, as if he had never seen him before. "Shopkeeper, young Master Qi insists on bringing these 2 people in. Honestly speaking, it was already very good of him to be able to persuade so many people outside, but Qi Wenhan insisted on bringing these 2 people in. As a servant, how could he really stop him?" Chapter 43-43. "Alright, you can leave now." Wei Xiaodong frowned, then looked at Qi Wenhan with an indifferent expression. He smiled politely and said, "Young Master Qi, what brings you here today?" "What brings you here?" Seeing Wei Xiaodong's calm expression, Qi Wenhan could not help but curse him for being a sly old fox. He pointed at the pirate leader beside him and snorted. "Manager Wei, do you not know this person?" "Oh. Which hero is this? Is he a new escort hired by your Heaven's Equal Escort Agency?" Wei Xiaodong pretended to be surprised and looked at Qi Wenhan with a confused expression. He spread his hands and said, "Young Master Qi, I have never met this person before. How would I know him? Humph, this old fox is still pretending when things have come to this." Qi Wenhan didn't bother wrangling with Wei Xiaodong. He suddenly kicked the pirate boss to the ground and sneered, "Tell this shopkeeper Wei about the dirty things that happened between the two of you in front of him. Manager Wei, save me. Quick, save me." The pirate leader had been obedient before, but this time he suddenly became disobedient. He was not only afraid of Lin Yi and Qi Wenhan, but he was also afraid of Wei Xiaodong. If he told him everything again, even if Lin Yi and Qi Wenhan let him go, Wei Xiaodong would definitely not let him go. They were all big shots who could easily mobilize nascent soul stage fighters. He could not afford to offend any of them. Save me? What a joke. Do I know who you are? You want me to save you for no reason? Wei Xiaodong sneered and didn't even look him in the eye. He curled his lips at Qi Wenhan and said, "Forgive me for speaking bluntly, but young Master Qi, what is the meaning of this? You brought a stranger who popped out of nowhere and barked at my Hong Chamber of Commerce. Are you putting on a show for me? Wei Xiaodong, you." The pirate leader was speechless. He had no choice but to ask Wei Xiaodong for help. But now, not only did Wei Xiaodong not help him, he had also offended both Lin Yi and Qi Wenhan. This time, he really wouldn't even know how he died. Me? Me what? Wei Xiaodong sneered and continued, "Young Master Qi, I had previously entrusted the goods to your Heaven's Equal Escort Agency. This old man had repeatedly reminded you that these goods were life-saving goods for the Fong family village, yet you still lost them. It was truly heart-wrenching. However, business is business. Since you've already compensated me at the original price, this old man can't say anything more. Besides, the relationship between our two families has always been good. Young Master Qi, who are you trying to put on a show for me by doing this?" Lin Yi stood at the side and watched coldly. Seeing this, he could not help but secretly shake his head. This old fellow's skin was really thick. Although Qi Wenhan wasn't lacking in shrewdness, in front of this cunning old fox, it was likely that he wouldn't be able to gain any advantage. Birds of a feather flock together. Putting aside Wei Xiaodong's depraved character, the fact that he was able to gain the approval of someone like Hong Zhong meant that his own ability was absolutely unquestionable. "Shopkeeper Wei. At this point, you and I both know the truth. There's no need to continue pretending, right? What's the point of doing this?" Qi Wenhan was not angry. He knew that in front of this old fox, if he couldn't control his anger, it would mean that he had lost. He could only choose to deal with the other party properly. Know the truth? Huh, young Master Qi, your words are even more baffling. Why don't you tell me, how should this old man know the truth? Wei Xiaodong was instantly amused. He sat down calmly, making it clear that he wasn't going to listen to him. If that's the case, then fine. Brother Ling, I can only trouble you to tell our shopkeeper Wei everything about the escort. Qi Wenhan laughed coldly. Lin Yi nodded. He calmly recounted everything from when the escort set off, how the goods were robbed, how he learned the truth from the pirates, and how he managed to snatch the ship back. How about it? Shopkeeper Wei, what else do you have to say? Qi Wenhan stared coldly at Wei Xiaodong. He had received elite training from a young age, so he was never one to get angry easily. But now, he had been tricked by this old fox. Not only had he lost 300,000 spirit jades, but he had also lost the reputation of the escort agency. He could not swallow this anger no matter what. In fact, at this moment, he wanted nothing more than to personally step on this old fox to vent his anger. Unfortunately, reality did not allow it. The other party was the representative of the Hong Chamber of Commerce. No matter how big a mistake he made, it could only be executed by the Hong Chamber of Commerce. If an outsider overstepped his authority, it would be a provocation to the Hong Chamber of Commerce. The consequences would be unthinkable. As the young master of the Equal of Heaven Escort Agency, Qi Wenhan had to consider the bigger picture. Ha 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 ha. Wei Xiaodong laughed as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. He pointed at Qi Wenhan and said, "Young Master Qi, this old man has always thought that you were a smart man. I didn't expect you to have such a funny talent. Let's not talk about whether or not this guy is a real pirate. Even if he is, don't you think this kind of trick is child's play, young Master Qi?" Child's play? Qi Wenhan raised his eyebrows. Is it not? Who doesn't know how to play such a childish trick? Do you believe that any child on the street can play the same trick? Wei Xiaodong laughed so hard that he could not catch his breath. Young Master Qi, we are all adults. There is no need to play this kind of child's play. This old man also knows that this kind of thing happened to your escort agency, and you feel bad about it. But there is no need to put on such a show. Do you think there is any meaning to it? Humph, the witness and the evidence are conclusive. Shopkeeper Wei, do you still think this is child's play? Qi Wenhan suppressed the anger in his heart and sneered. In that case, I will report this matter today and let the people outside judge it. What do you think, Shopkeeper Wei? Once this kind of thing was exposed, it would definitely be a huge blow to the Hong Consortium, especially to Wei Xiaodong, the mastermind behind it. Even if this old fox was thick-skinned, once the Honging group of the Hong Consortium found out about this, or even the Hong Consortium's headquarters, he would definitely not be able to bear the consequences. Qi Wenhan originally thought that if he said that, even if the other party would not panic so much, at least he would not dare to be so unscrupulous. However, Wei Xiaodong's expression was still that of a sneer, as if he really did not fear a crooked shadow. He did not take his threat seriously at all. Witness? Could it be that young Master Qi is talking about this guy who framed this old man out of nothing? I don't even know where he came from. How can his words be trusted? Do you think this old man will believe him, or will others believe him? Wei Xiaodong shook his head fearlessly and sneered. Moreover, look at his pitiful appearance. It is obvious that he was beaten. Anyone who saw it would know that he confessed under torture. Humph, young Master Qi, how dare you say that he is some kind of witness? Chapter 43-44. You. Qi Wenhan choked on his words, and Lin Yi could only shrug helplessly. He hadn't touched the pirate leader on the way here, and only knocked him out when they arrived at luxuriant Ark City's docks. He didn't expect the other party to use this against him. As for the evidence, forgive this old man for not seeing it. Young Master Qi, where is the evidence you speak of? How come this old man doesn't see it? Wei Xiaodong continued to sneer. The pirate leader being caught by the other party had indeed surprised him, but how could there be any evidence for this kind of thing? For safety's sake, he had secretly contacted these pirates in the far Star Sea realm. He had never even passed a note, so where was the evidence? This is the evidence. Qi Wenhan took out the letter Lin Yi had given him and coldly said, since shopkeeper Wei doesn't recognize this witness, then let's put it aside for now. The Fong family manor has already signed for it. If shopkeeper Wei doesn't believe me, I can accompany you to find Manor Lord Fong Baiwu to verify it. Oh. Wei Xiaodong's eyes flashed as he glanced at the words on the letter. He found that it was indeed Fong Baiwu's handwriting. He and Fong Baiwu had known each other for several decades, so he could recognize the other's handwriting. Otherwise, Fong Baiwu wouldn't have entrusted such an important life-saving resource like the miasma-dissolving pill to him. Wei Xiaodong looked at Lin Yi. Even if the other party didn't say it, he could guess that it was this person's doing. He had snatched the goods from the pirates and actually continued to deliver them to the other party. This was something he hadn't expected. If Wei Xiaodong were in Lin Yi's position, his first thought would be to pocket the goods. After all, this was worth a full 300,000 spirit jades. Who would be so stupid as to give it away? Shopkeeper Wei, you can insist that we found a random person and beat him into a confession. But you can't deny this document, right? Qi Wenhan stared closely at Wei Xiaodong's expression as he spoke. Because he could find Fang Biwu to verify, he wasn't afraid that the other party wouldn't admit to it. Moreover, if Wei Xiaodong didn't admit to it, not only would it be useless, but it would also make it seem that he was in the wrong. When that time came, the pressure of public opinion would be even greater. At that time, Wei Xiaodong would only have one outcome, which was that he would not be able to bear the consequences. So what? This only shows that after such a long delay, you barely managed to deliver the goods. You can't accuse this old man of being related to pirates just because of this, right? Wei Xiaodong said calmly. When Qi Wenhan and Lin Yi saw this, they couldn't help but look at each other. This old fox really wasn't easy to deal with. From the moment he entered until now, he hadn't revealed a single flaw. It was not an exaggeration to say that he was a wily old fox. Fine. If that's the case, shouldn't shopkeeper Wei return the 300,000 spiritual jades as compensation to us? Qi Wenhan said in a deep voice. Return it? Wei Xiaodong raised his eyebrows. The corner of his mouth lifted into a mocking smile as he said, business is business. Young Master Qi can't really be treating business as child's play, right? What do you mean? Qi Wenhan's heart immediately sank. It's very simple. Your escort agency delayed for an entire month before delivering the goods to Fang Manor. This caused great damage to the reputation of our Hong Chamber of Commerce. For the sake of our old friendship, this old man hasn't even settled this debt with you. You actually have the nerve to ask for compensation? Wei Xiaodong curled his lips and sneered. In the original contract, it was clearly written in black and white that once something happened, you would have to pay the original price. Young Master Qi can't be thinking of this contract as child's play, right? Every word and sentence made it sound so natural, as if this was how it should be. Even Lin Yi couldn't help but be speechless when he heard this, let alone Qi Wenhan, the person involved. Fine, since you insist on saying this, then I won't argue with you. In the original contract, it was written that if the goods couldn't be delivered, then we would have to pay the original price. However, our escort agency has already delivered the goods. It's just that we're a bit late. Furthermore, Fang Baiwu has no objections. Shopkeeper Wei, you're still thinking of paying the original price. Isn't this a bit too unreasonable? Qi Wenhan said righteously, there is a loss for delay, but the loss isn't too great. Regardless of sentiment or reason, shopkeeper Wei can't hold on to the 300,000 spiritual jades. If these words were to spread, it wouldn't be pleasant to hear. Hearing this, Wei Xiaodong's expression finally changed slightly. Qi Wenhan's threat wasn't baseless. If this matter were to spread, Wei Xiaodong's reputation as a greedy person would be confirmed. It was understandable for businessmen to pursue profit, but for him, a shopkeeper of the Hong's Chamber of Commerce, this would also affect the reputation of the Hong's Chamber of Commerce. If the Honging team were to find out, they would definitely conduct an in-depth investigation. When that time came, it would be hard to say how the situation would develop. However, since he, Wei Xiaodong, had already swallowed the spiritual jades, it would be harder than ascending to the heavens to get him to spit them out. If Wei Xiaodong really cherished his reputation so much, then he wouldn't have done this kind of shady business. My apologies, this old man has already handed over the 300,000 spiritual jades of your escort agency's compensation to the Central Island headquarters. Now, even if I want to return it, I can't. Young Master Qi, please give up. Wei Xiaodong finally came up with an excuse. What? You? Qi Wenhan almost couldn't catch his breath. He was so angry that his hair stood on end. He had just collected the 300,000 spiritual jades of compensation and sent it over yesterday, and Wei Xiaodong said that he had handed it over to the Central Island headquarters today. Fuck, did the Hong's Chamber of Commerce have such heaven-defying efficiency? Someone, send the guests out. Wei Xiaodong smiled coldly and immediately sent the guests out with tea. He didn't give Qi Wenhan any chance to speak and directly turned to leave. Yes. The servant guarding the door immediately ran over to Qi Wenhan, Lin Yi, and the other two, respectfully inviting them in. "Gentlemen, please return." You. Although Qi Wenhan wasn't a simple-minded person, he was so angry that he almost couldn't help but attack. With both witnesses and material evidence, he came with a vengeance to settle the score with Wei Xiaodong. He didn't expect that the other party wouldn't buy it at all. Instead, he had a stomach full of anger. No one could accept such a cruel difference. Good. Very good. Let's go. Although he was unable to restrain his anger, Qi Wenhan didn't lose his mind in the end. He could only suppress the anger in his heart, drag the trembling pirate leader, and lead the way out of the door. After all, this was the Hong's Chamber of Commerce's branch. Once they made a move here, it was equivalent to declaring war with the Hong's Chamber of Commerce. Chitian Escort Agency was a local tyrant that could call the wind and summon the rain in the luxuriant Arc Sea area, but compared to the Hong's Chamber of Commerce, a colossus that could move unhindered across the 5 major heaven stage islands, they weren't on the same level at all. If they really went to war, they might be wiped out in minutes. Chapter 43-45. Lin Yi turned to look at Wei Xiaodong's back and frowned. Not only was this man ruthless, but he had also schemed to swallow the life-saving resources of the Fong family on Rock Island. Now that he had been exposed, he had no intention of bowing his head and admitting his mistake. Instead, he had resorted to sophistry. It was rare to see someone this shameless. This kind of scum had completely sunk into a heartless, black-hearted businessman. He was not fit to be friends with someone like Hong Zhong. If Hong Zhong was here, he would definitely cut ties with this man. Lin Yi wanted to make an example out of Wei Xiaodong, but after careful consideration, he followed Qi Wenhan out. He was alone and it was not the right time yet. Wei Xiaodong was not a pushover. Not only was he a nascent soul expert, he was also the representative of the Hong Chamber of Commerce. If he wanted to deal with him, he had to plan carefully and find the perfect opportunity. Seeing Qi Wenhan, Lin Yi, and the others come out, the escorts waiting outside immediately surrounded them and asked about the situation. As for the passers-by who had gathered to watch the commotion, they were all looking forward to it excitedly. They were all here to watch the commotion and were eager to see the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency and the Hong Chamber of Commerce fight. "Let's go back first," Qi Wenhan said expressionlessly. Without another word, he walked out. The escorts all looked at each other in dismay. From the looks of it, they must have suffered a loss. The young master was in a fit of anger, so no one dared to ask any questions. They had come in a threatening manner, but in the end, they did not gain anything and could only leave with their tails between their legs. Wei Xiaodong stood on the second floor and looked at the backs of the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency. He smiled coldly and scolded them disdainfully, "Idiots." Back at the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency, the escorts all looked solemn as they waited for their young master's next order. In the end, Qi Wenhan waved his hand and said, "All of you are dismissed." Disbelief was written all over everyone's faces. Although Qi Wenhan had not been at the helm of the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency for a long time, they were very clear about this young master's style. He was definitely not one to be taken advantage of. 2 years ago, Qi Wenhan had even personally led his men and fought a few battles with the infamous Poison Eye mercenary group, forcing Qing Haonan to retreat. Since then, he no longer deliberately obstructed the escort agency's business. How could such a powerful young master endure such humiliation in silence when encountering such a situation? But since Qi Wenhan said so, no one dared to say anything else. After looking at each other, they nodded and dispersed. Lin Yi originally wanted to find a place to stay. Anyway, he had delivered the darts and captured the pirate leader. He had done what he needed to do. What happened next was Qi Wenhan's business. It wasn't something that a nominal escort like him should worry about. However, Qi Wenhan suddenly called out to him, "Brother Ling, please wait. Not only have you been wronged in this incident, but you have also performed a great service." As the head of the escort agency, it is only right and proper for us to reward you well. I'll get someone to set up a banquet to welcome you. Then I will respectfully accept." Lin Yi nodded in agreement. After all, he had nothing else to do at the moment. Moreover, based on his previous actions, Qi Wenhan was indeed a person worth befriending. There was no harm in getting closer to him. Qi Wenhan immediately brought Lin Yi to the banquet hall that the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency had prepared to welcome their esteemed guests. In the past, those who could dine here were at least prominent figures in the Wayark territorial waters. It was clear to see how much importance they placed on Lin Yi. "Uncle Song, go to father's place and report what happened today. Although he doesn't have the time to care about these things now, he should at least know about it. Otherwise, he will be caught unprepared in the future." Along the way, Qi Wenhan instructed the old housekeeper who had been by his side the entire time. He then pointed at the trembling pirate leader and said, "Oh, that's right. Lock this guy up in the dungeon. He is an important witness. Nothing must happen to him." "Yes." The old housekeeper, who was called Uncle Song, nodded and immediately carried the pirate leader away. His figure was erratic. It seemed like he had only taken one step, but in reality, he had already traversed tens of feet. It was clear that he was an expert who was extremely proficient in movement techniques. More importantly, he was a true original infant stage expert. Seeing Lin Yi looking curiously at housekeeper Song's back, Qi Wenhan smiled and explained, "Uncle Song has a very deep relationship with the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency. He was an orphan adopted by my grandfather and is also my father's sworn brother. The reason why the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency was able to establish itself in the chaotic Wayark territorial waters is because of him. Brother Ling, you may not know this, but my Uncle Song's strength is ranked among the top in the entire Wayark territorial waters. No expert dares to look down on him." "I see." Lin Yi nodded. Even an old housekeeper of the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency had such strength. It was clear that their foundation was not weak. No wonder they could establish themselves in the Wayark territorial waters. He then asked curiously, "Then this housekeeper Song's strength should be second to none in the entire Heaven's Equal Escort Agency, right?" "That is indeed the case. Although there are many experts in the entire escort agency, the only one who can match up to Uncle Song, or even surpass him, is my father. However, he has been busy preparing for the South Continent Escort Agency's grand festival and rarely comes back to the agency. Otherwise, I would definitely recommend Brother Ling to my father. He has always loved to make friends with heroes of the world, especially young heroes like Brother Ling," Qi Wenhan said with a smile. "Brother Qi is too kind." Lin Yi smiled and waved his hand. He also loved to make friends with experts. Since Qi Wenhan's father was the strongest in the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency, Lin Yi was very interested in meeting him. When the two of them arrived at the banquet hall, the food and wine were already prepared. Qi Wenhan personally poured wine for Lin Yi and raised his cup in thanks. "Brother Ling, thank you so much for this matter. You allowed me to see the true face of that old fox Wei Xiaodong. Our escort agency will definitely not work with him in the future. Brother Qi, you are too kind. Actually, I am also responsible for this. This time, the docks of Zhenduan City were locked down and I was unable to return in time, causing the agency to suffer losses." Lin Yi also raised his cup in thanks. No, Brother Ling, you have already done very well. If we really have to blame someone, the biggest mistake is actually on me. I did not know the right person and fell into that old fox's trap, causing us to suffer such losses." Qi Wenhan shook his head, then said, "However, although our agency has lost 300,000 spirit jades this time, it is not as if we have gained nothing. It is a blessing in disguise." "Oh? What do you mean by that?" Lin Yi could not help but ask curiously. "It is very simple. Because Brother Ling, you delivered the goods." Qi Wenhan had completely recovered from the shock just now, and his eyes were shining as he spoke. Chapter 43-46. There's no such thing as an airtight wall in this world. This incident will spread throughout the entire luxuriant Ark Sea area in less than 2 days, and even the surrounding sea areas will be spread. At that time, everyone will know that although our Heavens Equal escort agency was robbed midway, and although we've already paid the compensation, we kept our promise and delivered the goods after retrieving them. Brother Chi means that although we've lost 300,000 spirit jades this time, we've also restored the reputation of our escort agency. Lin Yi's eyes lit up when he heard this. He had to admit that Chi Wenhan's words were indeed a blessing in disguise. He wasn't just comforting himself. That's right. A man can't live without his word. In our escort agency, the most important thing is credibility. As long as we have credibility, we'll have a foothold. Using 300,000 spirit jades to restore the image of our escort agency as a trustworthy person is definitely worth the money. This is something that can't be bought with any amount of spirit jades. In the future, the profit brought by this will be far more than 300,000 spirit jades, but 3 million spirit jades, or even more. Chi Wenhan became more and more excited as he spoke. He even felt that this wasn't a loss at all, but a huge profit. To be able to see a good thing in a bad situation, Brother Chi is indeed an optimistic and open-minded person. It's the fortune of our Heavens Equal escort agency to have a manager like you. Lin Yi couldn't help but smile. He wasn't just joking. In fact, there were very few people with this kind of character. Moreover, to a certain extent, no matter what this kind of person did, they would be closer to success than others. I'm just trying to find joy in the midst of misery. Since things have come to this, I can only use this as an excuse to comfort myself. Chi Wenhan smiled broadly and said, Brother Ling. I'm really sorry, I didn't expect you to have hidden your strength all this time. I was blind. If I had known this earlier, I would have let you be in charge of leading the team instead of giving it to people like Li Yanji and Guan Ziyuan. Then, this wouldn't have happened. We haven't known each other for long, so it's normal that we're not familiar with each other. Moreover, Brother Chi, if you let me, a newcomer, take charge of such an important escort mission right from the start, I wouldn't be able to convince the people. It may not be able to convince the masses, and the result is hard to say. Lin Yi waved his hand. This was the truth. With Li and Guan's temperament, even if Chi Wenhan said that Lin Yi was the one in charge, the two of them would definitely agree on the surface but oppose on the inside. Once they encountered this kind of situation, Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao would have to be on guard against these two people scheming behind their backs. For safety's sake, they wouldn't necessarily recklessly fight to the death with the pirates. That's right, Brother Ling. I'm now inviting you to officially join our Heavens Equal escort agency. What do you think? Chi Wenhan's spirits were suddenly roused. The first time he saw Lin Yi, he was already shocked by Lin Yi's strength, even though he was teaming up with Huang Xiaotao. However, to be able to injure Old Kong, who was at the peak of the early nascent soul stage, was already an impressive achievement. But now, the strength that Lin Yi displayed was even more powerful. He easily killed 3 pirates at the peak of the late gold core stage. Furthermore, the pirate leader was so frightened that he didn't even dare to have the slightest thought of resisting. It could be seen how strong the deterrence was. For the Heavens Equal escort agency, a person like Lin Yi was definitely a talent that was hard to find even with a lantern in hand. They had to try their best to rope him in. Merely being an escort in name was far from enough. If he could go one step further and become a permanent escort, then he would truly be one of their own. Seeing Lin Yi hesitate, as if wanting to shake his head and refuse, Chi Wenhan hurriedly interrupted and added, Brother Ling, I'm not purely trying to rope you in, but would like to ask you to do me a favor. A favor? Lin Yi couldn't help but be stunned. He couldn't possibly be a permanent escort here, but if it was just helping to do something, then it was a different story. That's right, I've just said that my father is busy preparing for the South Continent's escort agency convention. Brother Ling, you're powerful, and can fight enemies above your level, so I hope you can represent our Heaven's Equal Escort Agency and participate in this convention. Chi Wenhan said with a burning gaze. What's that? Lin Yi asked with a frown. When he first heard about it, he thought it was an industry summit between the various escort agencies in the South Continent, but listening to Chi Wenhan's words, there was actually a competition? Every 3 years, all the escort agencies in the sea near the South Continent will gather together to hold an escort agency convention. From there, the 5 great escort agencies will be chosen. According to this ranking, the corresponding range of escorts and the distribution of benefits will be divided. Of course, the higher the ranking, the greater the benefits. Chi Wenhan explained to Lin Yi. Where there were people, there would be jianghu, and the relationship between escort agencies and jianghu was the most inseparable among all the industries. Therefore, to some extent, the Triennial Escort Agency Convention of the South Continent could almost be understood as the martial arts circle convention that often appeared in storytellers. 5 great escort agencies? Lin Yi was slightly stunned and couldn't help but ask, then the ranking of the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency is, 3 years ago, our Heaven's Equal Escort Agency barely made it into one of the 5 great escort agencies for the first time. Of course, we're ranked last, the 5th great escort agency. Chi Wenhan laughed bitterly, then said with anticipation, however, if Brother Ling can join this year, I believe that your ranking will definitely rise a little. As for the remuneration and treatment, as long as Brother Ling says it, we'll definitely find a way to satisfy you. In short, we'll definitely satisfy you. How about it? This. Lin Yi hesitated for a moment. The other party's conditions could be said to be high, but he didn't intend to stay in the South Continent for long, so he could only tactfully refuse. Brother Chi, to be honest, I came to the luxuriant Arc Sea area this time with a sect mission. I've never thought of staying here for a long time. If I join an escort agency, I'm afraid it's really not possible. Oh? Brother Ling even has a sect mission? Chi Wenhan was stunned when he heard this. Seeing that Lin Yi's expression didn't seem to be fake, he asked, what's the mission? Have you completed it? Not yet. Lin Yi shook his head with a bitter smile. From the moment he arrived at the luxuriant Arc Sea area, he and Huang Xiaotao had been entangled with trouble. Then, after being robbed midway, they went to the True Segment City in Lufeng Forest. Even the mission that was one of the original intentions of this trip hadn't been completed from beginning to end, let alone making any progress. In that case, if it's convenient, Brother Ling might as well tell me your mission. I can help you think of a way. Our Heaven's Equal Escort Agency doesn't dare to say how strong we are, but at least in the sea areas near the South Continent, we definitely have a lot of connections. Who knows, maybe we can help. Chi Wenhan immediately took the initiative to suggest. Lin Yi's heart moved when he heard this. This was really a way. Now, he was alone here and unfamiliar with this place. If he wanted to rely on his own strength to hunt down Wu Baoyang, it would be like looking for a needle in a haystack. Chapter 43-47. If there was no external help, it was very likely that they wouldn't even be able to see his shadow, let alone catch him. The Heaven's Equal Escort Agency was a local bully in the Wayark waters. Moreover, as an escort agency, their connections and information were absolutely not to be underestimated. If Chi Wenhan could help, they could indeed get twice the result with half the effort. Since Brother Chi has said so, I won't stand on ceremony. Here's the thing. I came to the Wayark waters this time to hunt down a wanted criminal who escaped from the North Island. His name is Wu Baoyang, Lin Yi immediately told Chi Wenhan. Wu Baoyang. Chi Wenhan raised his eyebrows and said thoughtfully, I haven't heard of him. But since he escaped from the North Island, it's not surprising that he is unknown here. Brother Ling, you can tell me in detail. Well, this person's strength was at the peak of the late stage of Gold Core. He was an extremely famous evil cultivator in the North Island. He specialized in sucking the blood essence of virgin girls for cultivation. More than 300 people were killed by him, which caused public resentment. When the law enforcement hall of the North Island was ready to take action against him, he escaped. According to the latest information from the law enforcement hall, the last place Wu Baoyang appeared was in the Wayark waters. Lin Yi explained the situation. Specialized in sucking the blood essence of virgin girls, and more than 300 people? Even Qi Wenhan was speechless when he heard such a shocking thing. The Wayark waters were chaotic, but there were not many people who committed such a heinous crime. This is just a rough estimate. If we count the missing women nearby, the real number should be far above this. Lin Yi shook his head and sighed. The reason why he took this task at the beginning, in addition to specifically looking at the Wayark waters as the task location, was that he felt that this evil cultivator was too heartless and had to be killed. There's actually such a scumbag who specializes in harming women. He's as evil as the Qing father and son. Qi Wenhan was also indignant and said, "Brother Ling, don't worry. I'll find someone to inquire about this Wu Baoyang. I'll let you know as soon as there's news." That's great. Thank you, Brother Qi. However, while asking people to look for Wu Baoyang, can you help me find out the whereabouts of another person? Lin Yi quickly asked. Another person? No problem. Gathering information is what our escort agency is best at. Brother Ling, who do you want to find out? Just tell me. Qi Wenhan promised. Alright, the person I want to inquire about is called Lu Bianren, a senior brother of our Clear Cloud Pavilion on the North Island. He has always taken good care of me. Previously, he came out to the verdant Arc Sea with a group of people to complete a mission. I lost contact with the others after that, and I haven't heard from them since. Lin Yi said with a sigh. This was the main reason why he decided to come to the verdant Arc territorial waters. Regardless of whether he could find it in the end, he had to work hard. No problem. If he appears in a public place here, we will definitely be able to get wind of it. Brother Ling, you don't have to worry. Qi Wenhan hurriedly agreed. Regarding the South Continent Escort Agency's grand gathering, Brother Ling, you should really consider it carefully. It won't take up too much of your time. Who knows, the event might end before you even finish your task. Alright, I'll think about it. Lin Yi nodded. If it was purely to help him participate in the South Continent Escort Agency's event and not to join the security chief, it was not a bad idea. He would just take it as a favor in return for gathering information. While the two of them were talking, there was a sudden commotion outside the escort agency. It was noisy, and it seemed like many people had arrived. Could it be that my father has returned? Qi Wenhan couldn't help but wonder. His father had recently been busy preparing for the South Continent Escort Agency's Grand Festival, which was the most important event for the escort agency. Normally, he wouldn't come back, but this time, the escort agency had been tricked by Wei Xiaodong. After all, it wasn't a small matter, and it was possible that he would come back personally to deal with it. However, just as Qi Wenhan and Lin Yi were looking at each other, a guard suddenly ran in and said with a panicked expression, "Something has happened, young master. That fellow Qingketian has brought people to block the door." Qingketian? Did that brat take the wrong medicine? How dare he bring people to block the door of our Equal Heaven Escort Agency? Qi Wenhan was stunned. Although the Poison Eye mercenary band was a troublemaker, and many people's expressions changed at the mention of their name, Qi Wenhan didn't take it to heart. Especially after he had led people to fight a few times with them 2 years ago. Qingketian was no match for him, and had been beaten to a pulp several times. As a result, every time young Master Qing saw him, Qi Wenhan couldn't help but feel apprehensive and weak in the knees. And if Qingketian's father, Qing Haonan, came out, then his own father would also come out personally. What was there to be afraid of? Qi Wenhan was still confused, but Lin Yi, who was beside him, knew full well that after being taught a lesson by him at the docks, this young Master Cheng must have gone back to get reinforcements, and was ready to come back to get back at him. Brother Ling, continue drinking here. I'll go out and take a look, and I'll be back soon. Qi Wenhan immediately stood up and said. No matter what, Qing Ketian was the young master of the Poison Eye mercenary band. If he didn't come out personally, the other people in the escort agency would have a hard time dealing with him. Brother Qi, I'd better go with you. If I'm not wrong, this guy should be coming for me. Lin Yi smiled and shook his head. Ah. Qi Wenhan couldn't help but be confused. Then, he suddenly slapped his head and said, "That's right, Brother Ling. You and Old Kong worked together to injure him. With that guy's narrow-minded nature, he definitely won't let you off easily. But after such a long time, he's coming to block the door for such a small matter. This guy must be sick in the head." That might not be the case. Actually, there's something I didn't have time to tell Brother Qi. Just now, before I returned to the agency, I fought with them again at the docks. Lin Yi said, pinching his nose. What? Then Brother Ling, you're not injured, are you? That scum Qing Ketian only knows how to bully others. Every day, he brings Old Kong everywhere to show off his power. A dignified early-stage nascent soul expert has become his dog. But this dog is very powerful. Brother Ling, if you meet them again in the future, you'd better bear with it. Qi Wenhan hurriedly warned. There's no need to avoid them. Actually, the dog that Brother Qi mentioned was crippled by me just now. Lin Yi shrugged and spread out his hands. Qi Wenhan suddenly had a strange look on his face. He looked at Lin Yi from head to toe again, his eyes looking like he was looking at a monster. Before this, he had already thought highly of Lin Yi's strength, but he didn't think that he had still greatly underestimated him. He couldn't help but ask, "Forgive me for asking, but Brother Ling, you're still a Golden Core expert, right?" "That's right, the middle stage of Golden Core." Lin Yi nodded calmly. There was no need to hide this point. It could be seen as soon as they fought. Chapter 43-48. Qi Wenhan choked for a moment. He also believed that Lin Yi was in the mid-gold core stage. After all, he had the same feeling before. But a mid-gold core stage expert was actually able to cripple Old Kong, a peak early nascent soul stage expert. What was wrong with this world? Had he gone mad, or had the world gone mad? No wonder that brat was so angry. If it was me, I would also be angry. Qi Wenhan finally said with a speechless grin. Having an enemy like Lin Yi, no matter who it was, their heart would tremble with fear. With Qing Ketian's courage, if he didn't eliminate this threat as soon as possible, he probably wouldn't even be able to sleep. The two of them arrived at the entrance of the escort agency. At this moment, there was already a large circle of people outside. Both ends of the street were blocked by passers-by who had come to watch the show. In the middle of the door stood Qing Ketian, and behind him was a group of experts from the Poison Eye mercenary group. Each of them had an imposing manner, and were all ruthless characters who killed without blinking an eye. Lin Yi glanced at them. Among this group of experts from the Poison Eye mercenary group, there were actually 3 that he couldn't see through. If he wasn't mistaken, they should be nascent soul stage experts. Even Qing Ketian could mobilize 3 nascent soul stage experts. This kind of strength was not bad. It was no wonder that the Poison Eye mercenary group was able to wreak havoc in the Weiwan Sea. Lin Yi was a little surprised that the other party had mobilized such a large force. But after thinking about it, he understood. Before, Old Kong, a peak early nascent soul stage expert, was crippled by him. If he didn't bring so many experts to protect him, how would Qing Ketian dare to block the door? Seeing Qi Wenhan and Lin Yi come out, especially when he saw Lin Yi, Qing Ketian subconsciously shrunk his head. The ferocious scene on the pier had truly frightened him. It was not an exaggeration to say that he was scared witless. It had left a shadow in his heart. But when he saw Lin Yi's mocking gaze, Qing Ketian suddenly stiffened his neck. He couldn't help but become angry out of humiliation. With a rude and unreasonable expression, he pointed at Lin Yi and said, "Men, capture this guy for me." An order was given. The group of experts behind him immediately released their auras, causing a commotion in the surroundings. As for the three nascent soul stage experts, they all had a solemn expression. Although the opponent was a golden core stage expert, they had learned their lesson from Old Kong. They didn't dare to lower their guard and were prepared to work together to take down Lin Yi. Courting death. Lin Yi's eyes were also filled with killing intent. He had let Qin Ketian off at the docks earlier because he didn't want the Poison Eye mercenary group to fall out with him. But now, Qin Ketian didn't know what was good for him. If that was the case, he wouldn't mind going on a killing spree. Lin Yi didn't want to find trouble for himself, but he was never afraid of trouble. Even if the other side was a local tyrant who would turn pale at the mention of his name, as long as he found the right opportunity to use a super alchemic fire true chi bomb, the experts of the Poison Eye mercenary band would definitely die. For a time, the situation suddenly became tense. No matter who made the slightest move, there would immediately be a bloody storm. This kind of thing happened in the verdant Arc Sea. But he was already used to it. However, under everyone's gazes, Qi Wenhan calmly walked until he was one step away from Qin Ketian. Indifferently, he said, "Capture someone? If you have the ability to catch one for me to see. As long as you dare to touch him, I dare to make all of you unable to return. Do you want to make this bet with me, young Master Cheng?" As soon as he finished speaking, the group of escorts from the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency suddenly released their auras. There was no lack of nascent soul experts among them. After all, this was the headquarters of the Equal of Heaven Escort Agency. "You! Don't be too arrogant." Qin Ketian immediately choked. He was so frightened by Qi Wenhan's aggressive gaze that he took a step back in front of everyone. He couldn't help but curse in his heart. "Fuck, I'm the one who's here to seek revenge. Why does it feel like this guy's temper is even bigger than mine?" Unbeknownst to him, Qi Wenhan had been suppressing a bellyful of anger at Wei Xiaodong's place, and just happened to have nowhere to vent it. This fellow had come looking for trouble. Who could he blame? Arrogant? "You, young Master Cheng, brought so many people to block the entrance of my Heaven's Equal Escort Agency. No matter how I look at it, you are the arrogant one, aren't you?" Qi Wenhan laughed coldly. Previously at the docks, this Ling Yi from your escort agency injured Elder Kong. What's wrong with me bringing people to capture the real culprit? If you do something wrong, you have to admit it. Your Heaven's Equal Escort Agency has always been righteous and righteous. I don't think you will protect your own people, right? Some things are better said than done. It's not easy for your escort agency to build up a reputation. You won't destroy your own foundation for an insignificant person, right? Qin Ketian said in a strange tone. Every time they crossed swords, Qin Ketian had been suppressed by Qi Wenhan's men. Even now, he still had lingering fears. Today, in front of Qi Wenhan, he didn't dare to be forceful and could only speak in this manner. "You are weak and your skills are inferior. Who can you blame for suffering losses? Why are you talking to me about the real culprit? The sun must have risen from the west today. Since when did your dignified Poison Eye mercenary band start to reason with others?" Qi Wenhan was instantly amused. The surrounding crowd laughed along with him. The Poison Eye mercenary band had wreaked havoc everywhere. Almost everyone in Velvet Arc City had been threatened and persecuted by them. Yet, they still had the nerve to talk reason. Qin Ketian's face immediately turned red. He angrily shouted at the surrounding crowd, "What are you laughing at? If you laugh again, I'll cut off your tongues. You dare to laugh at my Poison Eye mercenary band? Are you all tired of living?" Qin Ketian's vicious and threatening gaze swept over them. The surrounding crowd immediately stopped laughing. Although they were angry, they didn't dare to speak out, afraid that they would be targeted by him. "Qi Wenhan, I advise you to think carefully before you speak. Do you think it's worth it to make the entire Poison Eye mercenary band your enemy for such an insignificant person?" Qin Ketian threatened. Ha 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 ha. Qi Wenhan couldn't help but throw his head back and laugh. He looked at Qing Ketian as if he were looking at an idiot and said, "Young Master Qing, did you not take your medicine today? Or did you take too much medicine? Why are you saying such stupid things? Our two families have fought at least 8 out of 10 times, big or small. Don't tell me you think that this is not being enemies, but a harmonious family? You." Qing Ketian was so angry he almost spat out blood. Qi Wenhan was practically his nemesis. He couldn't beat him in a fight, and he couldn't even win an argument. Every time he ran into this guy, nothing good would come out of it. It had been like this in the past, and it was still like this today. He couldn't beat him in a fight, and he couldn't win an argument either. What could he do? For a moment, Qing Ketian was stuck between a rock and a hard place. He could only glare at Lin Yi with hatred. However, he was afraid of Qi Wenhan and didn't dare to make a move. He couldn't help but curse inwardly. If he had known this would happen, he would have chosen a different location. Although he had brought many experts with him today, this was still the Heavens Equal Escort Agency's headquarters. If they really fought, they would definitely be at a disadvantage. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.